Hey, welcome everyone to a special edition of the Sketch Zone podcast. I'm barely awake, Carlos Gomez. And this episode 154, we're talking to this dude is so incredibly talented. We can't believe he wanted to come talk to us. He's that talented.
Don't say that, man. Don't say that. Don't put me up in any way. Oh,
everyone, welcome James Castillo.
Yeah. Very good.
Hi, guys.
Hey. So before we put his talents on blast, let's go ahead and welcome Charlie B. Williams III.
What's up, nation? Here, it's bright, sunny here in Chicago. 12 o'clock noon. It's bright. You can see my skin's glistening off my
15 minutes. Give it 15 minutes. The storms will be rolling in no time.
So haters are going to always hate, as Carlos is doing because he's in California. But
you can't say that now. That's copywritten.
It's nice and bright. And yeah,
it is.
Let's get into it.
You have a glow.
Yeah, I've been outside. It's like 80 degrees or something like that. It's great.
Speaking of wonderful weather, Sketchbook Jack is here.
Even earlier.
Jack,
actually, it's only 10 o'clock. It's not like it's.
Don't make it sound that you woke up like a.
Man, we woke up at 5 a.m. to do it.
It's high noon. What do you got? You guys haven't even started your day. I mean, it's out and about. It's cool.
I went to bed last night about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I was my buddy Mike, who lives in Berkeley, came up, and we made homemade pasta and drank so much wine.
You got that pasta game still going? Yes.
What type of pasta?
He brought his little pasta machine thing, and
what did you make?
Yeah, and then obviously I made homemade bread.
Yes.
That's like
what kind
of carbs?
Yo, Carlos is into the bread. He's bread games on lock.
So I made roasted garlic and thyme, and then was one loaf, and then the other one was lemon and rosemary.
Oh my god!
Now, do you time that so it's hot when you guys eat, or is it something you make earlier in the day?
So he's got a whole system. He's got a whole system.
Really? So you're eating hot bread, like butter melted on the bread.
Got like 18, 17-hour steps.
Really?
No, but it is you gotta wait.
Wow, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, when I make bread, it's usually like a 2-day thing.
I feel like our powers should combine.
Okay,
it's so good.
Some good bread.
We have to have a bread party someday.
You need to come over.
Yeah, we do.
Come by. Just give me a grill.
If
I go, I'll expect the most amazing bread out of you.
I got you.
Yes.
But he's got that Europe bread, so we'll see. We'll see.
I know, right?
Yo, got to shout out the chat right now. Noel's in the chat.
Noel's already there, ready to go.
What's up, chat? She's already talking about getting my old man self out of bed. Yeah.
Feisty even at 10 a.m.
I know. And it's early, so her feist might be like full right now.
Full night's sleep, ready to go. Quick one-liners. Yeah. Cool. Let's go.
Did you guys happen to see the video that Bobby Chew made?
Yeah, your boy went off.
That went viral.
What happened with that? Somebody made him angry.
Did it go viral? I just saw it this morning. I just didn't know.
Yeah. I don't know, but
it's been filming the last 2 days.
It's got
it made it to us, so.
10,600
views. Yeah. Oh, how many views?
10,609.
I want to say you posted it Friday night or Saturday.
I think it was Friday.
It wasn't that long, James. It's been pretty quick.
Yeah,
right, but he's not the first person to say anything about this.
No.
Right? Like I think Steven Silver made a video last year that was pretty big as well.
Steven Silver's been making videos the last 2 or 3 years. Every year around this time, Steven Silver makes a new video. It's like, just so you know.
Just as a reminder. and he talked a little bit about it on the show when he was on too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, because we had him on. Yeah, so he talked about it a bit. But it seems like
so.
Yeah, go ahead.
James, do you guys have anything like CTN? Well, actually, you're in London right now?
I am in London right now, yes. But I'm original from Madrid, Spain.
Nice.
And there is a community, but there's nothing as big. Oh, it's nothing. It's not an industry big enough to host something like CTN that hosts like thousands of people and all these people.
Is it just not culture there, or I would be surprised?
Depends on where you go. In France, they have a massive animation culture, and that's where you get schools, and not only animation but like comic book as well. So you have the bande dessinée, that's how they call it. Is their own. They have their own industry apart from the whole American market, where they do their own comics and they have their own taste and their own authors and their own celebrities, and it's really great. And that's France. But I think when it comes to England or Italy, Spain, Portugal, it's not that big, or it's not that respected or understood or appreciated by everybody as much. The one festival that is really good is this one called Trojan Horse vs. Unicorn, and they do it in Portugal. THU, they do it in Portugal, and that's become this sort of big niche, like great market thing.
It's nice. It's the best of both worlds. It's like
it is nice.
I'm a 3D guy, so it's like all the 3D stuff and the concept.
Yeah,
you got the concept art, you got the live stuff, the live question answers, and the demos. It's great.
Yeah, and it has a very different feeling from CTN, and it's a whole. We could have a whole conversation about different festivals and how people react to them. But CTN is very much a student-driven festival. Right. And THU, they have this air to it that is more just like, this is just professionals hanging out in an island for a week. Yeah, and you get a very different vibe from being there with everybody.
Have you been to the Unicorn?
Yeah, I went last year. I'm not going this year though, but I did go last year.
So. Do folks from Spain and surrounding countries go to France for these events? Because at least from the American perspective, I feel like Spain has a really lively art and animation and comic community.
Well, now it's becoming a bit bigger because there's a whole generation of amazing animators in Spain that went to France to work at Disney in Paris.
Okay.
So that's where you get your Juanjos Guarnidos, your Sergio Pablos, your Borja Montoro. So you get there's like a 10 of these guys that were animating in Tarzan and Hercules and in all these movies. And when Disney closed in Paris, all of this talent pool had to do something. So some people went into comics, some people opened their animation studios, some people started doing, some people go to LA. So out of that, you get Sergio Pablos, who I think the last movie he worked on was Treasure Planet. Mm-hmm. And he's now doing this movie called Klaus. That is on Netflix, and it's this beautiful 2D animated movie, and that's happening in Madrid, in Spain.
That's a magic word on this show.
I know. It's insane. It's insane, and it's responsible for revitalizing the industry a lot, because it's investment. It's a big studio. There's talent going to Spain, Madrid. All of a sudden, there's like a couple of hundred people that work in animation, and they're great talent, and they're moving there. So hopefully, this starts a community that can sustain an industry for a few years and stay there. Hopefully.
And do you think that videos like the Bobby Chiu one and the Steven Silver one, does that affect you guys's wanting to come and be a part of CTN, or do you guys just think, stop your crying, you American babies?
No. I don't think we would see it from that perspective. I think for any person in Europe having an opportunity to go to LA and to showcase your work, it's insanely valuable. Because what I talk with some people when I go there is, there's some students who've been there 6-7 times, and they know everybody, and they go because they live nearby, or they're studying color arts, or it's something that is nearby where they are. But for us, you have to take a 16-hour flight, and you have to pay a hotel, and you have to find someone to stay in. So it's a huge investment. So the fact that there is such a thing as CTN that allows you to make an effort to go there and to have a week or 4 days where you can show your work, or you can have meetings with people and portfolio reviews in LA, it is pretty amazing. Now, it is a shame. It is a shame that, because we are going to still go, because it's the one place that you can use as a platform. Yeah. But it is a shame that videos like Bobby or Silver, they start showing the truth or the reality of how these things work, and how it's a bit unfair and but I think that also motivates a lot of European events to do a little bit better because they know there is a niche and they know that there's a way of making it better. That's it's like we were talking before. It's not an American industry anymore. It's a very global industry, and everybody moves around a lot. So it just changes things.
Yeah, I think how you treat people is a big deal, even at those big events. And maybe with that being said, they have a little bit of more growing pains. They're really huge now, but maybe they need to grow in the hospitality and how they how they treat the artists they bring on and stuff like that. But sometimes students and people up and comers will never see that side of it, but maybe they see the side of like inflation in terms of like pricing and stuff like that.
Well, that's big. That's very big.
I think they should just keep working on that.
I remember last year I went and there was this moment that I got a bit angry because I brought a friend of mine from Spain for the first time. And I remember when I went, I went like 4 years ago, I went 2 years in a row. Then for 1 year I didn't go and then I went again. So the first times that I went, there was only 2 types of tickets. It was the normal one and then the VIP that allows you to go into the talks on the queues and all of that. And that's it. It's 2 tickets.
Right.
And now we went last year and there's like 4 different tickets, and then if you want to get into a queue to go to a talk, you have to like have a special ticket. I have to buy in hours in advance. You have to buy a ticket to get into the queue.
Oh wow!
So then you're like, why did I spend $300 into the VIP ticket if it doesn't really get me into the queues to see the talks that I want because I have to buy another ticket, and there's like an extra VIP, and this it's like why?
Yeah,
we are all students.
Really
like, how much money do you want to take out of these people that go to this festival?
Especially people.
Yeah, especially young.
If that's their like graduation present to themselves or something like that.
Yeah,
I did that for SITGRAPH years ago. Like after I graduated, that's what I did. I went to a big huge thing to try to get noticed and do all these things.
Right.
But that sounds crazy a little bit. I didn't know it was that. Yeah. It was like that.
But you have to take a look too. Obviously we're all art students, but we get taken advantage of all over the place. Because people want you to do something. Oh, it's not going to take you that long. Just go ahead and do it for free. So and then you'll have exposure, right? So we're getting screwed that way. And then we want to go to art school, and art school costs about as much as
more than
a house.
More than that.
And then when you're done there, you have to hustle, and then you join a company that asks you to work super extra long hours, and so it's a mentality that hopefully will change once artists understand that they understand their value. Like what we do, there's a lot of value to it.
Yeah.
So we need to stick to our guns and be like, hey, like, stop taking advantage of me.
Yeah.
I think there's this mentality that just you would do anything for an opportunity. It's almost like actors or dancers, or like you would do anything for your first breakthrough into the industry, right? Like, and there's this mentality that you have to take over all this crap just so you can work on doing retopology for a show for I don't know in LucasArts for Star Wars or whatever. But that's already you're making it, and you're willing to do 13 hours a day for 6-7 months with very little pay. Just because you're breaking in, but the problem is that I guess that's a bit inevitable because it's a lot of competition to get there. But once you're in the industry, it feels that everything is very broken because producers or people that are making the films, it feels like they think that our skill sets they can be found anywhere. It's like we are replaceable, all of us, and I think that's not. I think what makes projects great or what makes productions amazing is the artistry and the people that take care of it, and they really want to make it amazing. And it's never the money people that make projects great, right? Is the people involved into making something that is worth their effort.
Yeah,
and that needs to be valued from the industry perspective even as well.
Yeah, and I think Bobby Chiu coming forward and having the long talk that he did that was very, very concise and to the point and not overly, like, I would say not overly angry. I think he made his point really well known, really, really good about, just, being, kind of treating others how you want to be treated, and stuff like that. Will hopefully throw a little bit more spotlight so that the next year can be a little bit better, and next year can be a little bit better, so that way we don't get those, and maybe they get those prices under control. Maybe you only need two or three tiers, of it. But at the same time, no one should have to spend close to $3,000 or $2,000, however much it is. If you tie in, if they're traveling, like somebody like me would be traveling across the country, finding hotels, doing all this other stuff, and you traveling across the big old bathtub there, and you want to make sure it's
And have you guys been to CTN in the past?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been twice. Carlos and I went in 1 year, and then I went randomly a different year.
Nice.
It's I think none of us on this show have any personal, harm or complaint or any skin in the game. So we've sort of been watching it from afar and absorbing all of the input from what people said. But I can say, just even attending, that it does have kind of a contentious vibe around it. Even when you're there, it kind of, the way they have it kind of segmented out in the rooms and the tents and stuff, like it's. I think what they're wanting to be like a Comic-Con. They have it set up like that, where everything's divided and you have to have special passes in this and way, and all the bouncers and security and all the staff that work there sort of act like they're a Comic-Con, and they're not.
That's a very weird feeling. Yeah, that's very weird. That's true, because there is a ton of security to go through every door or every tent. Yeah. There's a guy, and it makes you feel like you're not even welcome there. Like even though you pay the money to go there, it feels like you are a second-class attendee because you cannot access all these alleys and see these people. Where that's, I don't know, like that should be the whole point of going to these places, that you have freedom to just bump into people and see people that you've been waiting to see for years. There's people that go there to see people like Bobby too. They carry a lot of weight, and there's people that want to go and see them and meet them in person. Right. And you have to allow everybody to do that easily.
Yeah, to that credit, that's what Bobby mentioned in his video. He talked about getting done with his presentation and them giving him the wrong type of pass, but he had already been back presenting and doing stuff, and he came back to go into the presenters, green room area or tent area, whatever we want to call it, and got stopped. And the guy or girl who was at the door of that area kind of really went after him because he didn't have the right badge and everything like that. Even though she knew he was a presenter, he had just got done presenting and did it in front of everybody that was in the room, and kind of embarrassed him, And he was mentioning how that shouldn't even happen. And even after it's happened, didn't really get an apology or whatever. Organizer, I can't remember the young lady's name, but kind of laughed it off with him, and then realized when Bobby wasn't laughing, it was kind of like, well, you gotta see this kind of funny, right? And Bobby's like, no, not that funny, to have that level of like, elitism, if you will, even though it's not as big as a San Diego Comic-Con that packs out a whole city and all this other things. Kind of slow your roll a little bit, come back down, and remember what the meaning of the whole event is.
And it's almost like because he was saying that she asked him to do, almost as a favor, to do 3 talks that year.
Right,
last year, as a favor. But then at the same time, seems like she has this attitude of you are lucky to be here. Mm-hmm. Whereas, you are the one asking me for a favor. So, so how come I'm the lucky one to be here?
Right.
So, it has, I think it's a bit tricky.
But at the same time, anyone who does go is kind of lucky, because that's a neat thing to do. It's a neat thing to be a part of. Mm-hmm. It's just a little heartbreaking when people that you are fans of are telling you this is a huge opportunity that could change your world, but don't go. Because they're not real cool.
Well, I gotta be honest. Like that, the first time I ever went to LA and started meeting people in LA was through CTN. I was 22. I had my first job in Spain, and I saved money, and I went to CTN with my little portfolio, and being in that in that show, given that this was like 29, I think it was like, yeah, like 7 years ago. So it was a bit smaller still, but I had, just being there, I felt very lucky because I get the chance to like show my work to these A-list artists from the industry, and they gave me feedback and they introduced me to other people, and then slowly you started creating a network, and that started giving me more jobs, and if it wasn't for a show like CTN, I would have had a harder time building a career. So at the same time, you have to be grateful that they're doing things like this. So it's not so much to pointing fingers. It's more like it's a shame that something as beautiful and as important as this show is tainted by these sort of situations and anecdotes. It's just very sad.
Because I just feel for that artist that's got into concepts or 2D and animation based off of Bobby Chiu's all his outlets and stuff that he has online, and he was looking forward to seeing them that year, and they get this type of video, and he's not going to be there now, because there's people there that was like going to go so they can go see him.
Yeah,
and talk to him and tell them, yo, I took your courses, or this is what it meant to me. Show you my stuff. That's why we're gonna go. They would wait in line 2-3 hours, and do that. And now,
he's a great. Have you guys had Bobby Chiu on the podcast?
No, not yet.
Not yet. We'd love
he's
to
a great. He's a great guy. He's a super nice guy. I'm sure he'll be happy to give you some time and talk about his career and everything.
Yeah, it'd be great.
He's a really nice dude. Yeah.
I wanted to go back to Noelle. Had a really good question that she asked in the chat. Oh, by the way, before we go any further, welcome, Jason Job.
Welcome.
Jason, yeah, he's a buddy of mine from Singapore. A long time. I lived in Singapore for a couple of years.
Yeah,
and he was a buddy of mine. He was developing mobile games, and I ended up with this group of people that ended up getting some money to develop a project with the government. I ended up in this sort of like a incubator sort of thing, and he was running it, and he was a great, he was a great guy.
Yeah,
hey,
nice.
Jason.
That's cool.
Thanks for popping.
So Noelle asked if you could change one thing about the art industry, what would it be?
Oh my God,
one thing.
Mine is easy.
I
want to be way more successful in it.
So you want it right? You don't want to.
Yo, I don't know. You can do, that's not the question. Carlos is changing the matrix. He's like, wait a minute, I can benefit from this.
I really don't know what it would be best. I mean, I think like things like what it would be great to have more information about the underbelly of the industry. Because I think most of us, we just want to get those jobs. You just want to design those characters for this Disney TV show that you love, or you want to work at Pixar. You want to it's this glorifying idea of the industry. But there is an underbelly. There are numbers. There are people being fired. How do you say this?
Lawsuits.
Like lawsuits going on. There's
contracts.
You gotta know. Like, it's important to know how does the money in a production, how does that money is shared and is used on the production. Like, how much money goes to which departments. All of that, like all that more technical part or economical part of the industry would be great if there was a way to know these things a bit more openly. That would be really nice. And things like you guys have in the US, you have unions. That have a lot of information and help around the industry and how to make it work. And most of the companies have to go through the unions to get contracts and stuff like that. That doesn't exist in Europe, or probably not in Asia either. So things that like spreading that part would be nicer, because I think that way we would all be a bit more protected. We will have more information.
Sure.
We will know more how companies are growing and that sort of stuff. That would be really nice.
That would be nice.
Speaking of, for anybody that's out there, if you're from out of the country, or you're not part of, like, particularly the animation union, you can go on their website, and most of their information is free, even if you're a non-member. So you can go on there.
Oh, that's good to know.
Look at bylaws. You can look at, established rights, and perhaps most importantly for a lot of starters, you can see their wage scale, the wage survey. so you can kind of see the average of what folks in different roles make.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's just that would be
great information. Wow,
Yeah.
It was a cool thing that happened earlier this week on our episode 153 with Angela, where she kind of talked about, remember, Carlos, the inner workings of how a show runs over where she is. And it was really nice to hear about what a production assistant does and how they help keep a cartoon, TV show running from a week to week basis and a day to day basis, and the people she has to go check in on and get different stuff from, and work all that. So it's nice to hear about the other side of things and all the other careers and professions other people may do, besides just animating or just drawing or just doing whatever. There's a whole other part of it that makes it all work. So that some people don't really know about, from production to everything else.
Yeah.
So Noel, go ahead.
Please go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say Noel should probably be here asking these questions because she's got a lot of good ones today. She must have got really good sleep last night. She says, if you knew what you know now about the art industry, would you still want to be in the art world?
Well, yeah. I mean, it wasn't, to be honest, like, it wasn't, I wasn't aware of an industry when I made a decision to make a living out of drawing.
Yeah.
That came later.
Yeah.
So I was a kid, and I was like, I'm not good at sports. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at history. I'm not good at English or literature. This is what I can do, and I want to pursue it. And at first it was, I'll find like because I wasn't aware there was an industry, but I was aware that people with drawing skills were needed for things like advertising, to do like covers of books or magazine layout or things like that. You need the skills of drawing to do all these things that I was aware that someone was doing that. And then I kind of found, and I wanted to do comics for a very long time. I think that's something that most of us at the beginning, because still animated movies are this sort of magical thing that you don't understand. Like when I was a kid, I thought they came from the moon. I had no clue that humans made those things. Yeah. You just don't know how that works. But comic books, that was a very real thing, because normally you would have like always the name of the artist on the cover, and they would tell you like, this is drawn by Joe Madureira or Roberto Ramos or whatever. I mean, like, oh, there's a guy with a name and he's doing this, and so that was like, I wanted to do that, and then I ended up through the years in life and situations, I ended up discovering that there was such a thing as visual development for animation, and then that was like, oh, that's kind of nice, because comic books are very much like the Wild Wild West. Like, you are on your own, and you're alone drawing, and if you are lucky, you find an editor or someone that wants to represent you, and then there's a publisher that wants to publish or wants you to work for them, and it's a very one-to-one discussion with the publisher. Whereas in animation, you are part of like a big community, an industry of teams of hundreds of people doing something. And that felt more appealing to me, rather than just being alone all the time, but being part of like a big production. That was more appealing. But that came later on. So it's not like if I knew things I would change, I would do it or not. It's more the idea that I think let me think about this for a sec. I would have found a different outlet to pursue my creativity. Let's put it that way. Like, I would have gone into advertising, or I would have gone into architecture, or I would have gone into video editing, or I would have gone into I don't know, like scenography for theater. I would have found something else, or photography. I would have found something else that used these ideas that I had, and I would have pursued that rather than. But I don't think so. I think I like it very much, even though there's negative parts of the industry. The good things and the people and the projects and the excitement and the creativity bit of it exceed by far all the negative elements of it.
I like that, and that's true. And to defend the creative profession, people get taken advantage of all the time. It doesn't matter, right? So especially here in the States, you could be a banker, and there's people that run banks going to jail because they're taking advantage of people that are just trying to put money in the bank, right?
For sure.
So it doesn't. There's bad. Unfortunately, there's bad things in almost anything that you do, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're exercising, if you exercise a little too hard, you might tear a muscle.
Yeah, and even within the sport industry or whatever, there's people taking drugs or enhancing drugs, and there's all these partnerships and sponsorships that go to the unfair. That's a bit unfair, and there's everything. There's always going to be bits and cracks in any industry. That's always going to be the case.
Do you think artists personalize it more perhaps than other industries? Do you find that we take it? Yeah, I was wondering if that.
Totally, I think so, because we're not naturally outgoing and confident. We're a complete opposite thing. We're like naturally these very protective and shy and insecure people. Because we are, every time you're drawing, you're putting something of your own and your own taste, and that gets judged, and so you're very vulnerable. So I think when you take when you glorify, and I think this is part of the danger of glorifying the industry a bit too much. Is that you can come in with this idea that I'm going to find my people, I'm going to find this magical company that is good, that is going to validate all my work and all my years of suffering and working so hard to be good at drawing.
Yeah.
And then you get there, and the real world is that it's just normal people working there, and some people are assholes, and some people are great.
Right.
But if you've been glorifying it for 5-6 years while you're in college and working so hard, and then you just get told that you're not good enough, that's devastating. It's horrible. It's like your dad telling you, "I don't love you." It's a horrible thing. And that I think is very personal, and we do take it very personally. Yeah.
And that's why we put things on Instagram, and we're holding our phones and holding our breath, waiting to see how many double taps we get. And something as simple as that.
It's so dangerous, man. It's so addictive. It's horrible. I become my worst person when I upload something to Instagram. It's horrible. I'm getting red now. I'm just it's horrible, man. It's just that buzz, that vibration in your pants, it's like so much. You get so much pleasure out of that. It's horrible. It's the worst.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what was it like? What was it like being a kid? And you're originally from Madrid.
I was born and raised in Madrid. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we said that earlier. I think we did, but I just wanted to make sure. But what was it like being a creative kid in Madrid? Is there a lot of support for someone like you there?
I could burn bridges right now. No.
Now we're talking.
It is hard. It is very hard. There's a very hard bit that is, especially. What was the hardest bit was not so much that the way that Spain worked in terms of like the industry and the support system and whatnot. It was more that I was aware through social media and traveling and making offs and all that stuff that there was a better support system in other countries such as France or the US. So I wish I had something like they do, because when I was growing up there was not such thing as a career on animation. I wasn't aware of any studios that worked in Madrid. There was no such thing as CalArts or School of Visual Arts in New York, or even the Art Institute in Florida and different places. And you guys have like a whole network of colleges and schools and industries and this and that sort of have that support of like commercial art. The only thing that we have is fine art, but it goes more into like, it's not industry driven. It's more like artist driven. So it's all the sculpture part and the charcoal drawings and all that sort of stuff. So it was good. The one thing that I'll say though is that I thought it was horrible when I was growing up, as in I don't have access to as many things as all these American kids or French kids or whatever. But in the long run, because I had to find all the references, or I had access to a narrow market through the French comic book market, for example, that came to Spain. For example, when I started having American friends, I realized that none of them had access to the French comic book market. And that's where you get your Moebius. You know Moebius? This amazing. Yeah, you get your Moebius, you get your Juan José Guarnidos, you get insane, like all your Asterix and Obelix, and you get all this amazing work that influences you from an artistic perspective that American kids don't do. And then you end up finding more obscure references. And then when you become a professional and you realize that your taste and your style is not that it's more sophisticated, but it does come from different places than all these American kids. And that sets you apart from everybody else because you have a different background when it comes to styles and references. And that was something beneficial to me.
Totally.
Growing up.
Because we've had, actually just recently we had Amber Huang, and we actually talked about this specifically. So do you find that like your style, your European style or your Spanish via French via whatever you sort of had to develop as your own, do you find now, it sounds like what you're saying is now it almost helps you and it makes you stand out and you look a little bit differently.
Yeah, I do think so too. Because and it was a struggle for a long time because I would go to CTN and I would see all these kids that were younger than I was, and they all drew when I went to CTN, it was this whole like Tumblr fever where everybody was in Tumblr like crazy and uploading all these things, and there was all these amazing colored kids that were uploading short films and backgrounds and these amazing drawings, and I was so impressed that they had an outlet to learn how to do that. But then I realized that when I get there the second time, I'm like, oh, all of these people, all these 35 kids that I'm seeing, they all draw the same. They all because they're all drinking from the same pool of references. And I was like, well, instead of fighting my own references, trying to be like them, I'm just gonna embrace all of these things that I like from being in Spain and develop my stuff. And then, but I think that helped set apart my style or what is becoming my style from all the other stuff. But then also you have all these French kids that come from schools like Gobelin, and they are fucking. I'm sorry. Can you call it?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh yeah,
we're good. Yeah.
They're so
fight the urge every
They're so freaking
and
great.
Pardon your French. Yeah. You're speaking about the French.
And they're amazing. They are so freaking good. So good.
They really are. But to that same note, I will say that Gobelin kind of has its own style now.
Yes.
It's very much in what you're saying that a lot of the students coming out of there are fitting that mold. It's a great mold.
That's true. But there's all of a sudden they are almost interchangeable because they come from the same thing. But I do think that there should be, and I think it is happening, that all the people or the cultures or the countries they have to embrace their own uniqueness to make an industry of their own that is interesting to the international market. Because there's this thing happening, and I've been talking about this with a lot of friends here in London, because now London is starting to have its own animation industry boom. So we have a couple of big studios opening offices here, and there's a Disney cartoon being done here. There's going to be a whole new European Cartoon Network branch doing shows here. There's a studio called Locksmith. There's a studio called Locksmith that is bringing people from Pixar to do movies here in London. So this is slowly to something happening, and then you see some movies being done in Spain or France or China and everybody's trying to make this American PG movie, and I think that very rarely any of those movies is successful, rarely, and I think it has to do with the idea that they are not adding anything to the market. They are not creating anything new or interesting. They're not creating a style or a look or a sensibility that is appealing from the outside because you've never seen it before. I think that's a reason why everybody's obsessed with Japanese anime.
Yeah,
is because nobody in the Western world would ever be able to do that because we lack the sensibility or the taste or we understand feelings or action in a very different way. So seeing something like that is insanely appealing. And studios like Cartoon Saloon they did a Song of Sea and The Breadwinner. All these movies are amazing. They're very cheap, but they have so much style and intention and taste and they have their own language, and they don't try to make Americans happy, American audiences happy, but precisely because they're being so unique, they are interesting. Happy, yeah. They make everybody happy because they're like something fresh and new. So I think that's something that has to change in the idea that I think especially if the industry is to grow, we have to embrace the things that make us unique in terms of the way that we understand filmmaking and make that and inject that into the animation projects that we make. Because that's what will make everything interesting and fun, and it will make projects from Turkey that come up and blow our minds because they have a completely different sense, or India, or even China, or Japan, or Africa. I would love to see an African production and see how they deal with everything, and that would be interesting.
And I think that's what makes being a creative fun these days. It's no longer just a small handful of companies that are giving you a green light to make animation, right? You can create it and you put it out there. People that like it, they can watch it, and that's it. Like, that's all you need.
Yeah. You have no filter. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
So we talk about that all the time. Where it's fun to chase after the dream of working at Pixar or Disney or Cartoon Network, whatever. But working towards that, you should always use your own projects to build up to that level.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's watching. And the reality of the situation is there's hundreds of people fighting and there's only 5 chairs. So are you going to keep yourself from expressing yourself in a creative way and telling your stories and animating and stuff?
Right.
Because you're trying to fight for one of those 5 chairs? Like, the odds are the odds are not in your favor when it comes to getting to one of the big studios. So you might as well work on your own stuff.
Yeah, and probably even making your own stuff would make you more appealing to those studios. Because those studios, when they're looking for hire people, they want people that add something to their
value. Yeah,
a value to their company. If you are just the guy that I can draw like Corey Loftis, and that's my thing, then Disney will be like, well, we don't want you because we already have Corey Loftis. So why would we have the guy that draws like Corey Loftis, right? But if
Corey Loftis.
If you come from a completely different thing and you do these amazing short films and you have your own sense of humor or sense of drama or sense of action and you have your own style, Disney might be like, well, you know what? Actually, we do need someone that has that sensibility to add something to this new movie that we're making, that we don't want it to look like everything we've done. And then you become appealing to them. And I think that you're totally right. I think pursuing your own projects puts you in line with everybody's sort of attention, and is much more helpful for your career than trying to please the requirements of a spreadsheet of a CV. It's totally
right. And there's a lot of people that can draw. There's not a lot of people putting out finished animations or finished storytelling, whatever it is, right? So if you're looking for something that's going to separate you from everyone else, is having completed projects and using those completed projects as your portfolio.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people that start stuff. There's not a lot of people that finish stuff.
Yeah, that is very true. And there's this. Have you guys seen the latest? And I'm gonna drop this. I'm gonna shout out to the guys at The Line. It's a animation studio here in London. They did the latest Gorillaz animated video. See, the guys going in Venice Beach and whatnot. And these guys, they've been a studio for about 2 years, and they've done things for Blizzard, and in only 2 years they've done things for Gorillaz, Blizzard. They're doing things for Nickelodeon. They did the intro for the new Ninja Turtles thing. They've done this. They have the best clients within nothing, but it's only because for 3 years before opening the studio, they were a collective and they were doing their own short films. And doing those short films and putting them in the internet and gaining a following and proving to the world that they can create these amazingly cool animated shorts, that right the moment they open a studio, they already have such an amazing demo reel that these great clients are already calling them. Because, like you said, it's not so much about having sketches or unfinished things. It's having finished products. If you can prove to the world that you can consistently create great stuff, then the world will give you all the opportunities you want.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
and what I find funny is when we're all in art school, everyone was like, yeah, I'm going to have my own studio. I'm going to work on my own ideas. I'm going to do all this stuff. And then you get wrapped up trying to work for the big studios. And then when you get to the big studios, then you realize that there's not a lot of time for your stuff because you're busy working and you have to work your ass off just to keep your job. And you never quite get to working on your own stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
So go ahead.
Oh, no, you already shared the line animation. Okay, sorry. I was trying to share this with the guys at the chat. The line website.
Oh, yeah. The line.
Yeah, I think it won't let you share a link for like security.
Boom. Okay. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
All good. No. Hey, Pat Mast. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Yeah.
Tony. Zig's Corners in the house. Hello, sir.
Zig. Yeah, hey, man.
So yeah, speaking of personal projects, what was the first project that you did that was your idea that you went from
that exists? That is a thing now, or that is still sort of in the ether of ideas?
The first project that you did that's done.
Okay, that was mine. That was, God damn it! I should have. I gave my latest copy to someone not so long ago. I did a kids book. That was the first thing that I did. I have a long-time creative friend called Enrique Dueñas. He's a guy that, if he ever hears this, he'd be excited that his name got dropped in. He's a creative partner that I've had for a long time. He was in film school, and he used to do all these short films for film school, and I would be always acting or doing the camera, and we developed a taste together, doing talking about film and whatnot. And he not only does writing and things for like TV in Spain, but he does board games. He's published like 9 board games already, internationally and everything. And one of the first things I did was with him, I pitched a kids book to a publisher in Spain, and they bought it, and we did a kids book. And I did all the illustration based on a story that he wrote, and that is called Ojos en la Noche, his eyes in the night. You can probably find a website. I mean, that was the first thing that we did. And it was all just him and I writing and drawing. But then there's always I think all of us, we all have 6 or 7 projects in the back of your mind that you want to develop.
Yeah.
Somehow you want to find an outlet
some
to
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the first one was that one, and then I had an idea for a feature. I had an idea for a feature film, and we did a script. We wrote a whole script in English. We did a whole Bible. We ended up even going to the US to have meetings with Paramount and stuff like that to show it the project, and we showed it to producers, DreamWorks producers and stuff like that. It didn't go anywhere because these things never go anywhere at the first try. But it was a great, because my whole point is, I think, goes back to what you when I said that understanding the underbelly of the industry would be great. I've always wanted to learn. I've always thought if I'm going to have a 40-year-old career, I need to understand how this industry works. Not in terms of the creative side, but the business side. Because you want to be able to go to be 5 steps ahead the industry, so you know when you have to change your career, or when it's the right time to do things. And the only way to learn those things is to be inside of it. There's no book, there's no radio show, there's no schoolism show lesson on finance a film. So it was like, well, let's do something. Let's do a pitch, and let's just go there with like all the in Spanish we say morro or cara, just go and pretend that you are someone and just go in there and show it and see what happens, because those conversations or those questions is what allows you to learn how this works, how the industry works. So that was another project that we started doing, and it's sort of now it's in the ether of stuff, and maybe one day we'll come over and maybe I'll share it to someone, but that was there. And then the latest one is Madrid Noir. It's this VR film that we're doing, and that was a crazy idea that came through. I art directed a VR short film called Melita. And it's sort of like sci-fi, beautiful sci-fi, low poly style, neon colored VR experience that came out last year. And I did art direction with that. And as I was doing it, that was my first experience with working on VR. And as I was doing that, I started coming up with all these questions of like, well, this project itself, I don't think it's perfect for the medium. It's a project that is really cool, but I think it doesn't benefit from being in VR. I think if you made a 2D film, it would be better, because you have all this dialogue and characters talking, and it's not really taking advantage of VR itself. So I started thinking, how would I do it? And I started getting obsessed with Google Spotlights, because they get these amazing directors. There's always like Oscar nominees. They have the guy Patrick Osborne. He did Feast. Have you guys this short film with the dog? The Disney short film with a dog eating and.
Oh yeah.
You remember that one?
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
They won an Oscar. Well, they got him to do a short film in VR called Pearl. What you've probably seen is this girl in a car. And it's with her dad, and through the song,
and they're singing. Yeah,
fantastic. It's fucking
fantastic.
great.
Yeah, it's great.
And seeing projects like that and the way they go around narrative and storytelling in VR, it started kickstarting some ideas on like what other ways can you do in VR to tell a story? Because one of the biggest problems in VR is changing location.
Right.
So. Because if you are in the top of a mountain and all of a sudden you cut and out of nowhere I'm inside I'm in a roller coaster, I'm inside a place or whatever, your brain doesn't have enough time to register, and it's a bit tricky. And in Pearl they get away with it by you are always inside of the car, so the exterior would change, and it would give you the progression of time and space, but the frame of the car is always there, so you always have that frame of reference, so you don't lose balance and you don't feel sick on the stomach or anything like that. And so as we were working on that project, I started thinking I think theater, it's something that you can take a lot of cues from to make a VR piece, because you can create location by changing the set, and you can be in a theater and you can have props coming in and out of the set, or fake walls appearing, or things falling down, or whatever, and you can create the illusion that you are in different places, but you don't move, you don't change. So that was the first idea, and that sort of started. And then I started thinking, well, how would I do it? What kind of story would I tell? How style this, style of that, and then that slowly became Madrid Noir. And that ended up I pitched it to these friends of mine called No Ghost. That you can search online. It's No Ghost VR Studio. They are freaking great, and they went like, let's do it, and we are a bunch of like 29-year-olds or 28-year-olds doing this thing, and they have a background on VFX, mostly on 3D, and then I have some of my friends who help me with all the art stuff and design and color scripting and whatnot, and we made this thing, and it is the one project that I've been doing that is really becoming a thing. Like now it feels like we are going to release it fairly soon, before 2019. And we are now in the last few weeks of production to start sending it to festivals and run it through hopefully Sundance and Tribeca and all these different places that have a VR outlet. And we are start programming, working on that. But we have a team of people. We have producers coming in. And it's this one beautiful thing where there's no budget. We're just a bunch of guys doing this thing. So, but it feels like everybody has the right spirit and the right intention to make something interesting. And so it's this sort of very collaborative, beautiful serendipity moment where it probably will never repeat itself. But yeah, it's really nice. But I think the only way to get to this place is by constantly trying to develop your own work. No matter what, always try. Because then you keep learning lessons, you have anecdotes, you learn from your mistakes, and you become a better communicator to a team. You start understanding projects from a broader perspective.
Big picture, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, totally.
And you're going to accidentally learn things when you're, right?
Totally.
So here's a surprise. Nothing ever turns out the way you think it's going to. It's never going to be super smooth. Like, so the more, you know how they say, you have to get through all the bad drawings to get to the good ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that with projects too. You continue to work on things and everything gets a little bit better. You learn things and you learn how to be more effective with your time when you're creating things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not just look at this really cool portfolio piece that I have. Now you're way more efficient with whatever project that you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, totally right. And I think one of the biggest learning curves for me was communication.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a big fucking
it's really
big freaking thing.
Huge.
Yeah,
It's a big fucking thing.
it is a fucking thing because
Yeah.
nobody teaches you how to handle situations with, or even how to handle hierarchies in companies and how to. And you are there, and it's like, well, I just know how to draw, and then just tell me what to draw, and I'll do it. But then working in teams is very complicated because there's egos going around and there's expectations and reality and people feelings and it's tricky. It's very tricky. It's fucking tricky. And learning, like, I think that's the biggie, is learning how to communicate with a team, how to make sure that everybody's expectations are in line with the reality of the project, how to make sure that you can convey the ideas clearly so nobody's time is wasted doing something that is not necessary. And that is a big thing. That is a big tricky thing.
Yeah, it is, and I think you bring out a good point. They don't teach that at all. I mean, there's some schools that are now starting to teach a little bit of like coordination and production and being producers, but even outside of that, that's still very much like rigid production related stuff, and a huge part of it is communication. I think you're totally right. It's navigating those boundaries and those personal people, and that's kind of what I talk a lot about, like, now that I'm more in the manager field. Like, most of my job is, managing personalities and managing people and trying to make sure that everybody can come together to create the best product.
What are you working right now?
Currently, I'm at DreamWorks TV.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
What are you working? Can you say what you're working?
Yeah, I work on a show called Spirit. It's an animated.
about
exactly.
Spirit, the TV show. Or the movie that came out in the 90s. Yeah. Wow, cool.
Yeah, and that's something that I had to just pick up along the way. It's like being an artist, like you said, you just learn to draw or you learn to animate or whatever, and it's really more of like a skill trade.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not until you're there and you're working with people and you have to get along with people, and you have to sort of learn I hate to say it, but a little bit of the politics game in order to work at a studio.
You totally have to. And there's one thing that I realized is that a lot of the people that I talked to that wanted to direct from very early on, they want to do their own films or their own short films or whatever, and the skill that, like, they are the worst speakers or communicators in the whole team. And in a way, is because they have this idea and have this ego about their work and what they want to tell. And for them, it's so special or so specific that they have a very hard time communicating it to the people, their team.
Absolutely.
But then there's always this beautiful moment when you're in a team of people and nobody really wants to take credit or take the management place, but through conversation that you are the right one, guy. I know you are the most humble, because normally it's like the one that is the most humble and the one that is more quiet is like, you should totally take it because you are the one that understands the bigger picture and knows how to handle the situation. And that's mostly what directing is.
It is.
There's this idea that it's all about this genius, crazy, this sort of Tarantino-esque guy that has these insane ideas and these fantastic projects and these things. And those are never the guys that you want to work for.
Right.
Because they are a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And you want to work with the guys that are aware that they are taking 200 people's life for 3 years to make a movie.
Yeah.
And they're aware that that's a very valuable thing. And their responsibility is to make sure that their work shines and is great. And they can put things in the project and the project belongs to them as well.
Absolutely.
That's the best. That's the biggest thing of being a director.
I think that's an amazing point. I think that giving each artist their own sense of ownership. They are part of this team, and I think a lot of, especially young folks coming out and like, I want to be a director, I want to run a studio or something, and it's exactly like you said. They have this kind of magical idea of this all-knowing genius who's going to create this thing. But it's like, you're not hiring a band of slaves. You're hiring a band of artists, and they all have their own thoughts and their own ideas, and you need to entrust them. Like, you're hiring them to do that job. Why are you going to micromanage them and do their job for you? You shouldn't have hired them in the first place.
Yeah,
and that's a really common mistake, I think. Not just managers, but anybody that's working with somebody else, or especially people below them, is they don't trust their people, and they want to instill their ego and their idea on top of everybody, and they forget it really is a giant team project, or a small team project. I mean, it works with the small groups as well.
Yeah, but the size doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is that you have to allow everybody to make the project greater through their ownership of it. And if you just keep it for yourself, it just becomes this sort of like constrained and growth thing, and it just like, that satisfies you, but nobody else. And that's always like the tricky bit, I think, of creating something.
And as creatives, we always try to push the boundaries, right? It wasn't good enough to have cave paintings. We needed to pull things from that and make photography or illustration, right? So then illustration turned into photography turned into movies turned into taking the cave paintings that we had and putting that on video. And now we're pushing it. We're taking an environment that's been flat for all of our lives, and now we're actually immersing people in it, right? So as creatives, we're always pushing the boundaries.
Right.
So if you have a band of creative people on your team, guess what they're going to do? They're going to push the boundaries.
Well, and what the most amazing thing is when someone comes in, especially from the No-Go's team that I'm working with, they are the technical guys, but all of them have an amazing taste and they have a very creative outlet. So sometimes I would propose them something. I have an idea for a scene or a sequence or a moment. And the guy to me is like, nah, we can do way better than that. Like, we can do way cooler. And they tell me that, because that's the thing, I don't know the limits of Unreal Engine. That's what we're using for creating this thing. I don't know how we can push technology to do amazing lighting or dynamic effects and stuff like that. And we have this one guy, Jack, who's a little genius. He comes up with this. I think every team has one of these people, right? Like this one guy that is like, you never know what he's going to come up with. And he comes up with amazing shaders, amazing effects, amazing tools to just make it, now I have to name all of them because they're going to get mad otherwise. But it's Tom Flavel and all this. There's a massive team, and massive. The 5 amazing guys, and they all come up with these amazing ideas that I could have never come up on my own. Mm-hmm. And they add to the pie of the project, and we make the project way better than it was on my own mind. In my little mind, it was this very tiny thing, and through their help, it's become this big thing, and it's so much better. And I have to give them credit because it is their idea, and it's also their project now. It's great.
So awesome. Yeah.
It's fucking great. It's the best bit.
Well, and I think that also is yet another component of it. I think, like you said, expanding the idea beyond even what you thought it could be, or you coming at it from a different point of view or a different background or different technology. It's people can expand these ideas, and that's kind of how they get bigger than what you even intended them to be.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. It's just really cool too to be a part of something, and then you're working hard, and all of a sudden you get this momentum.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it turns into this. I mean, for example, this show is its own beast, really. And it's just really cool to see something that we all worked super hard to get going now as a whole thing, and now it's just a habit. It's
Yeah.
we show up, we have fun, and then we do it all over again.
Do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think it comes down to this idea that creatives, we are just like expendable machines of ideas. Like creativity is this one thing that you're just like, oh yeah, this do you want a project? Like, boom, you come up with it. But creativity is more like a muscle. So I think it's this idea of repeating a routine. I think when you are there every day working on it, you get on the zone. It's almost like people when they exercise, right? And when you get in the zone is when ideas are almost like, it's almost like there's this radio wave thing, and you can when you tap into that, you get all these great ideas flowing because the project is working and everybody's on the same page and ideas are flowing in a very dynamic way. But it is a muscle. It's not this magical thing. Creatives are not just, we're not just like coming up with ideas like piece of paper. It's not like that. Yeah. It is a muscle. And it's very tiring as well. Like as any muscle is brain power. And after 3 weeks of like crazy trying to come up with ideas and make things better, you are exhausted because you need to rest, and your brain needs to rest for a little bit. And
It's awesome.
So Madrid Noir, if you guys go to madridnoir.com, obviously we're going to have the links in the show notes and stuff. But you said earlier you're working at Sony?
Yeah, I am working at Sony at the moment, yeah.
And what are you doing there for them?
I'm freelancing for Sony in LA, doing character design for this movie they announced called Mitchells versus the Machines. And it's directed by Michael Rianda, who comes from, I think, being a creative director at Gravity Falls for Disney TV, that TV show. And it's really nice. It's a project that was, well, I guess I can say names of people that I work with. It's been announced. So this is not, there's nothing wrong with it. But I came across through this girl called Lindsay Olivares. I mean, she's this amazing caricature artist based in LA. She was between San Francisco and LA. And again, look, like going to CTN all these years ago, we met, and she was friends with some friends of mine, and we hung out a couple of times, and then she started doing production design for this film a year ago. So, when they had to go into production, they needed a character designer, and she called me just because she knew me and we were kind of friends. So this going back to this whole CTN conversation, there is a need for outlets like that for people to meet and become friends and create relationships and create networks. Because that's where through your career, those networks are the ones that are going to keep you, bringing works your way and bringing projects your way. But yeah, I am doing character design for Sony at the moment for this film.
Are you doing that freelance, or do you go to a studio?
I'm freelance, full time. Every day I'm working from here. I'm working from my studio in August, and and it's great so far. It's really cool. The movie is coming out really, really cool. Nice. It's a really nice project, and it's one of these special. Especially, like, they have a very young team, which I think is a very cool thing. It's a very good part from Sony, especially. Like it's a first time director, first time production designer, I think, and the whole team is very young. So all these ideas are very fresh and very interesting. Yeah. And everybody's working so hard to make it look different and interesting and relevant and cool. Like I was in Annecy this year, and the project that blew everybody's mind was Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man movie that Sony's doing. Obviously, because it's the coolest fucking thing in the world.
Looks great.
But in every conversation, at the end, what everyone was saying is like, this is the end of fully CG stuff. Like nobody cares anymore about fair and perfect hair and like the eyelashes and pores on the skin, and that's done. Everybody knows that we can do it. It's almost like what you were saying about the taste evolving and pushing the limits, pushing the boundaries.
Right.
Like back when Toy Story 1 came out, creating CG looking, like photoreal looking CG images was a huge challenge. And it's taken 20 years to make Toy Story 3, which is a technical masterpiece. Yeah. But now that we are there, now that we have photography, we need to start doing impressionism. That's like once everybody can achieve CG looking, amazing CG looking stuff. But now that's not the hard thing. The hard thing is to make that CG stuff look weird and stylized and flat and broken. And that's where the new pushing the limits is going to be. And we were all talking about how that movie is going to start a trend, hopefully, that, you know, goes a little bit away from the CG looking things, and we start looking for new styles and new ways of developing movies, and it creates a more interesting looking product map, like a box office, almost like in the cinema. For a long time, every movie looked a little bit the same, like all the movies looked similar. And now, hopefully, we're going to have like every movie has its own look and its own interesting feeling, take on feeling or that thing. And that I think is going to be really cool. And that's something that Sony with this movie is really trying to make. Like now that we have Spider-Man, let's do something really interesting with this movie. Let's do this break style. Let's do something completely different that has never been seen before. And that is very interesting. That is the one thing in this project that motivates me so much. It's really cool.
And something that pops in my head when we're talking about this was the Peanuts movie that came out a couple years ago.
That was such a technical masterpiece too, right? They had to really figure out how to do that.
And it was funny because technology took us to a place where we could basically do everything, but then we had to break technology to go back to what it originally looked like. Yeah. And that's, I mean, those are the things that are going to keep making things relevant or exciting to see. Yeah. Because, now we can do all this stuff. Well, let's put our own twist to things. Let's make it look the way we want to. Yeah. Instead of, we all know that there's a lot of robot fighting movies out there. and they all kind of start looking the same.
Yeah, but it would be amazing that time where like a movie gets announced and you have no idea how that's going to look like. And you are expecting like who's going to be the art director, who's going to be the production designer, how are they going to come up with this crazy style? And then when you see these things in movement with this new style, it's going to bring, I don't know, it's just going to create, it's going to add to this pool of creativity and ideas, and people are going to get inspired to break it even more and go to even more abstract CG looking things and make things a bit even more interesting. And hopefully if it's successful, now that there's more companies trying to create animated content like Netflix or Amazon or whatever, there is a driving force that is, let's make something badass. Let's create a new trend. And let's make something new. And I think that hopefully that will happen in the next few years. And that's what really keeps me very interested in the industry right now. I think that's going to be the cool thing.
And what was that? What was that movie? There was a movie that they had a bunch of fine artists, like oil painters, and everyone
the Van Gogh movie.
The Van Gogh movie.
The Van Gogh movie.
That was crazy.
Where insane. And if you haven't heard of it, it's the producers, I guess, put together this pool of oil painters, and everyone got a certain set of frames, and they all painted that, and then they put it all together.
Really,
it's entirely oil. The entire film is oil painted, frame by frame. It's crazy.
How long did it take?
What's crazy is they put it all together in Flash.
Wait, what?
But that's
just kidding. Just kidding.
Yo, I was like, stop you.
I had to drop Flash.
No, it is crazy.
What's that program?
But even going back to what we're saying, a movie like Klaus,
Yeah.
Like we were talking before. Like that's the appeal. Like everybody wants to see it because it looks so different, and everybody's like, "How did they make it?" And everybody wants to see that. And I think that that's very cool and relevant and fresh and interesting. And that I think is what the industry should try to pursue moving forward. Totally.
And what's the
It's some
other movie from Spa Studios, I think?
Is it?
well, that's them. That's the Klaus guys.
That's the Klaus. That's the Klaus
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Aspire they haven't done another. This is the first film they make.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
They,
the funny part is sort of what you know, some of it is they're just going back to roots, you know, just going back to what animation is. And, you know, everybody a lot of times, how did they do that? And a lot of it is like, well, they just drew a lot of frames and they drew them very well. You know, it's kind of like, they are utilizing new technologies and stuff, especially to get their nice lighting and all that type of stuff. But, you know, for the most part, it's like, it's hard work.
Yeah.
It's just,
it is hard work. And it is, and I think that's the one thing that technology will never be able to take away from us. Like, because machines are becoming more powerful, and they are automatizing.
Automating,
automating a lot of the processes, right? But the one thing that they will never be able to do is the fundamentals, like design, like the fundamentals on drawing and storytelling. Those are going to be universal forever, because those are always the key. If you master those, then you can go break free and go and try crazy things. But those fundamentals need to be solid, rock solid. Right. And if you have a great story and a great writing team, and you have a great design team, and a great director, a great designers, and great layer artists, your movie's gonna look fucking great.
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter how you render it, but you need that. I think that's the thing. Is like sometimes in this product, like smaller productions especially, it feels like a lot of producers. It feels like money solves every problem. Like, we just throw money into this production to get people to fix everything, to like animate this thing. And it's like, well, your movie is not working because from the get-go, the look and the writing is weak as fuck. And it doesn't matter how much money you put on it, it's not going to fix it. It's not going to fix that nothing. It doesn't matter. And I think that's something that needs to be very clear in the industry, that is what you need to make movies. It's not money. Is very well craftsmanship.
And it's so weird how that pattern happens again and again. That like some film or some project will come out that just shakes the industry because it's like, oh my gosh, it was done on a $5 budget. How did they ever do this? And then, you know, the Disneys and the Foxes and the major players of the world are like, okay, let's try and do this thing on a low budget. But it's like they're purely only looking at it from a money standpoint. So they're like, let's just do what we've always been doing, but on an eighth of the budget, and it all, you know, just falls apart. Completely. It's like, because they don't come at it from the get-go, like you're saying, you know, from the strong fundamentals and the strong vision and the strong art and the strong writing. It's just like, oh, well, we'll just do what we always do, but with less money.
And it's disaster. Please go ahead.
And it's weird though. At the same time, when that does happen, and we get that movie or the animation that's like amazing and groundbreaking, and like everybody likes it and it wins awards and stuff like that, and they're like, and people forget and they see how much it took. Yeah. That no one like, you know, go like, oh,
that's
okay.
That's kind of that's the other downfall is I think especially
like praise it and it goes away.
Yeah, and I remember that sort of happened with like Book of Kells and Song of the Sea. It was like, oh, it's easy. Look, they did it with a small studio and a small budget. But like I've been following those guys since like 2002 or something. I remember seeing really early stuff with Book of Kells, and it's like that's been going on for 12 years. Like it wasn't something they did on a low budget that just appeared overnight. Like it took a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work. And the guy is his name Tom Moore or John Moore, or the guy that directed IMDb. I'm gonna do that right now. Book of Kells. But it's come on, I have friends working there. I need to know these things. It's Tom Moore. It's Tom Moore. I was right. Okay, it's Tom Moore. That guy has a vision. It has a lot of taste, and his taste and vision that he's been developing for years. And it's not just a producer that wants to make a movie out of a chart of like, this is what works in China and in the Asia market, and this is what we need to do. And that's no way to make a film. That's no way to make any art. You cannot make art by committee. And I think that, but also I think the industry is falling victim of its own growth, because
for sure.
you have this massive like mammoth-like structures, these insane companies that have 500 people hired, and they all have big salaries, and they all have big takes on what's going on, and have this big space that costs thousands of dollars a month to rent, and in sirens, and these insane things, and they need to keep making movies every year, otherwise they collapse. And it's very hard to have a studio that has year by year by year a success, a great movie every year, because you cannot make them just when you want it by command. Right. You cannot just put a bunch of people and be like, come up with a great movie.
Right.
It takes so that's where I think the industry sort of there's a bit of trouble in that sense. Like that's because they always want to have that chart, that ticking box list of like, this is how you make a movie, and we've been doing it for 10 years, and this is how our formula, and that's how you can come up with movies every single year. Right. But that's no way to create art. Art needs to have an intention underneath it. It's not just making money. There has to be someone with a voice and something to say, and that doesn't come every year. That people with that amount of talent and that amount of vision and that amount of drive, there are a handful of them. So that's, I think, where the industry is sort of in a moment that is a bit tricky. It's a bit strange.
Mm-hmm. And to build off of that, I think that's a dilemma that's happening in Hollywood right now. Is everyone is afraid to put money towards a new inventive idea, so they just continue to put money into things that have been proven to have worked. Yeah. But then all of a sudden you look back, and after Toy Story 24, everything seems to be it all looks the same. Yeah. And there's no real push for unique ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely. Please go ahead.
Oh, no, go. I was just gonna, because that kind of goes to your point about studios afraid to take risks because they're going by the chart. They're saying what does well in China, they're all going by the formula, and it's really afraid to step out of that because it's a money game. They want the best return for their input rather than the best product for their effort.
Yeah. Right. But it's also, I think, there was a moment when you had your Pixar making Monsters, Inc. and doing Incredibles and you even had Brad Bird doing The Iron Giant. And there was this moment in the early 2000s where like it really felt like what's driving the industry is not money, is creative. It is creative guys trying to because technology was the second part of it, but it was the storytelling was the first, the driving force of their endeavor of making this Pixar, this big cinema company, and the tech went after. And I think that happened for a few movies. And I think even Pixar, has always been this studio that represented innovation and great storytelling, they're also falling victim of the same problem, that they are too big now to take risks. Yeah, there's too much invested on them, so they have to be very safe with what they do things, and they do amazing things. Incredibles 2 was one of the best movies I've seen in a long time.
Great.
I loved it.
It's amazing, but it is Incredibles 2.
Yeah, it is Incredibles 2, and I will say I feel like they've had a few more misses than they had early on. There's not that any of their films have been terrible, but there's been a few that you're like, oh, okay, there's a little slip in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, their movies are always ahead of the curve. They're always there's a very clear standard of like anything that Pixar does is going to be a good movie.
Yeah,
but it's true when you put Finding Dory and Monsters, Inc. together, you can see that the intention of one was more pure and interesting and fun and groundbreaking than the other one. The other one was just try to keep the things alive. But they have to stay alive. That's the problem. Is sequels have a very specific purpose, which is keeping the studios busy, because they cannot always come up with amazing things all the time. So they have to keep their teams and their animators and the modelers busy with stuff, so that you create sequels, and they make great sequels, but they are not breaking any molds, so they're not breaking anything. They're just doing more films.
Well, and that's very true, and I think that's something from the outside that often gets pooped on is sequels are always so terrible and sequels this, sequels that. But I think your point is extremely important, is that it not only just from a practical standpoint keeps people employed and keeps the studio's doors open, but that's often the time that a studio is developing, kind of taking a break from a high pressure job and developing their own pipeline, developing what they've learned, streamlining it so that they can produce the next big project. It's the same, same thing with most other industries is, you have these little things that nobody pays attention to that are really feeding and supporting a larger purpose. So, I mean, they're not the most creative endeavors, but those are really a lot of the times when the studio gets stronger. Because
totally right. And even while they are making their new amazing project, they have to, that takes a year or two to develop. So you need to still have something else in the pipeline to keep everybody busy. And probably while they're doing a sequel, there's a very small core team of people having this amazing project and so trying to break through how that's going to work and to do something amazing in 3-4 years. But a studio cannot just stop until someone has a great idea. They have to be every single day. They have to open the studio. People have to come into the studio and they have to be busy doing something. So you need to create those. They have a very specific reason to exist. The sequels, and that's just how the industry works. It's inevitable. Yeah.
And think about it like this. Think about it. If let's say Madrid Noir comes out, everyone loves it, and you made a whole bunch of money, and someone says, "Hey, let's do Madrid Noir 2." Mm-hmm. You'd be a fool not to.
But I already have idea. I already
I'm ready to go.
But that's different because, probably it's not different. It's the same thing. I'm a sellout, but it's the truth is the way that I see it is look, because what we're doing now is a little prologue. It's like a 5-minute, 6-minute thing. Because the idea is that the original idea was like a 20-minute long project. But we're funding this with our own money and our own time, so we cannot really have a year and a half of production out of our own pockets, because then we'll ruin our lives. So we're doing this small thing to try to get funding to get a bigger piece done. Mm-hmm. So let's say that we eventually get that funding and we do the bigger piece. We've created this world around Madrid Noir one thing that is very frustrating is that we are only... Right now, and probably for the first piece that we do, we're only going to be able to explore a very small percentage of what that world could be. So if we get to do a sequel, the way that I see it is you're giving me an opportunity to keep exploring and digging how big can this thing be and where can I go with this. It's not so much about the idea that, I get to just do an easy thing and get money. It's I just keep playing in this world that I've made for another year. I'm making something else and see what comes out with it. I'm probably twisting it and breaking it and do something different with it. It's just an opportunity. But then again, we are not a big company. We're just 20 guys doing this. So it is.
Yeah, I think that perspective of timeline is really important. That I think a lot of times, not just the general public, but outside artists they forget is there and they don't always see. It's one thing to compare a Toy Story 1 with a 3, and I think we can all pretty safely say that they continued making those to keep the studio alive and to make more money. But like you said, in your situation, or another really great example is Angry Birds. Everybody when they came out with that movie, everybody was like, "Oh my God, why are they making a movie? It's such a money grab." But what people don't remember is that entire concept actually started as a movie pitch. That was what they wanted to do with that, and they couldn't get the funding, they couldn't get the pitching, and so they got together with the game guys, and they're like, "Well, let's make a game," and then the game exploded. And then when they're popular, they're like, "Well, now we get to do what we wanted to do." Well, and now we get to do what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So it's in some ways, sequels or these expansions are actually the original idea, or are actually an expansion on what the artist wanted to do.
Well, and I think that's going back to Incredibles 2, it's part of that because Brad Bird has been saying that he had the idea for this like right after finishing Incredibles 2, and for him it was like, I have this big idea that could happen in this world and all these adventures that these characters could have, and you are just allowing me now to keep exploring with this. And also, he's a fantastic filmmaker, and of course, he's going to make something amazing out of it. But for him, it's more like, well, I get to sit down and play with this world that I made and try to figure out what is interesting and relevant to today. And I think that's the key to Incredibles 2 success, is that it's a movie that is a sequel from a movie from 15 years ago. But they were smart enough to make the theme of the film something that is relevant today.
Very relevant.
It's relevant now. So then it doesn't feel dated. It doesn't feel like it's, this movie should have come out 5 years ago. No, it should have come out now, because now they have the technology to just like forget about the technical stuff and just get and pursue what they want to do, and at the same time tell a story that is relevant to now.
And did all you guys see the new Incredibles? Yeah. Did you? Because I was worried at first, because that's my like top 3, one of my favorite movies. Anime. Aspired to do those stuff based on seeing the first one 15 years ago in college, and like I was really worried about, because I kind of knew just from the initial trailer, I was like, oh, they're gonna make it very relevant, and I was like, is it gonna feel, not contrived or like pushed or forced, the way they were going to spotlight the the mother or whatever, Elastigirl, and I was like, okay, cool. I like how they did it. I thought it was okay. I thought it was good. I thought it had, some more like, more so wholesome undertones that you would see in like a sitcom or something like that, with a family that you knew about, and when the other person gets more spotlight over the other one, and how that works. And I kind of like how they did Mr. Incredible 2, how and his whole take on it, and the struggle that he had, with being at home and all that good stuff. So I liked how I did it. I was just wondering how they were going to do it, because they could have totally messed it up in terms of like making it feel too harsh or too forced or whatever. And they did a good job.
My biggest fear was that they were just going to focus on either making it way too goofy in terms of the jokes, or because then that would fall into almost the DreamWorks world, right? Where like everything is supposed to make a joke.
Yeah.
Or it was gonna be just like action, and then it wasn't. But they didn't. They did a really great balance where like the key of the movie is the characters and the story that they're going through.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's action, but the action is relevant to them as people, like as their conflicts are developing through the action that they're doing and the fighting, and that really works.
I wanted them to like develop Samuel L. Jackson's character a little bit more too, because he was always one of my favorite. And like his wife, things and all that good stuff, like which they still kept. It's kind of cool how they did it. Like really, I feel like it's animation design at its best in terms of knowing what worked in terms of different bits between the different like comedy they did have in the movie. Because obviously she's very comic relief. His wife. Never really seen what she looks like coming from yelling from the other room and all that good stuff. And they brought all that stuff back. But at the same time, I love the uncle role, I guess you can call it, as that Samuel, the Frozone had with the kids and stuff like that. I'm not with the movie and stuff like that. But those parts when he did come in and his role of like, caring about that family also on a personal level, I thought was really, really cool. And then like highlighting the individual kids, but I wanted them to highlight the youngest a lot more, and loving how they developed him as a character, of having all those, like the part with him and the squirrel,
on the raccoon.
The raccoon that goes along with like Mr. Incredible struggling being at home, but that whole sequence of like animation I thought was my favorite part, one of my favorite parts of the movie. It was so great.
Well, I gotta be honest. Like my favorite bit was all of the serious stuff. Like when the characters, especially my favorite character in The Incredibles is this CIA agent that always like helps them.
Yeah.
His design is fucking great, but also they always have him his acting is, it always feels like a person. It doesn't feel like a cartoon.
Right.
He talks and moves and touches himself and looks at the people in a way that it feels like a human. It doesn't feel like a cartoon going blah, blah, doing crazy stuff. He feels like a guy. And
he's always slower than everybody.
Yeah.
yeah.
And his scenes, or even the scenes where Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl, they're talking on the pool. And they are backlit from the pool and the backdrop of the hotel, and they're having a grounded conversation about economics of the family, like money and taxes and moving to a new place. And that's something that you don't see in animated movies. You don't see even like the two women, like the sister of the bad guy. And spoilers alert. But no, it's not even a bad guy. But anyway, the sister and Elastigirl, when they're having a conversation, is two females talking about business and about their professional life for 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, and they're like banter, the little quips in between there. Like,
you don't see that in animated movies.
Yeah,
that's great. That's so great. And those were my favorite bits. Where like it felt like I'm not watching a cartoons. I'm just watching a film.
Drama.
Yeah. Well, it's not it's just a film. The fact that it's a cartoon is not even relevant. It's just the storytelling is mature and it's smart and it's elegant and it's great. And that I love. It's my favorite bit.
What did you guys think about the apology in the beginning? Did you guys have that in the very beginning? They had the real people apologizing that it took that long to make the movie. Did you guys see that?
Did you see that part?
No.
Really? At the very beginning, very beginning, before the movie even starts, when it first comes on after the trailers, it's almost like a behind the scenes type of deal. It's got Samuel Jackson.
It didn't come out here in the UK.
Oh, really?
It's got a bunch of the actors.
Yeah. It's got all the actors, and they're apologizing for it taking 15 years to make a movie.
Right.
And I was like, you don't need to apologize. Just bring on the.
Never apologize for your art. That was.
It feels like it should have been like just at the end or on a making of or something like that. It was weird. It was right at the beginning.
I get the sentiment that they were trying to get across, but they should have sort of framed it more as, thank you for waiting this long. It took us a long time to develop this, but it really came off as an apology.
That's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's weird to see like behind the scenes, like them in the booth or whatever, or talking on a background, green screen back or whatever. Like before you even see the movie, it's like it broke it for me. Like it seemed like you would see that at the end. Like, thanks for sticking on, thanks for watching the movie.
Well, not even. Why would you have to thank it to apologize for anything? Right. I mean, that's not
like it take too long. I guess.
Do you think that has? I think that has more to do with the climate that is happening right now. I mean, it feels like everybody's so afraid of the public that everybody has to be extra careful.
That's
or
kind of
extra
what it
friendly or extra just like. Sorry, it's like almost like this is the movie. Like, I don't want to bother you. Like, just take this out and we'll all be outside. Just I don't know. Yeah, I think that's more.
They're like, it's worth the wait. It's worth the wait. They're like, well, we're here.
Yeah.
We're gonna watch it. Please have to watch a whole
building expectations.
Side short. Yeah,
and that might be against your own benefit. But I do think has more to do with the climate that we're in right now. Than anything else.
Because then you had to watch the animated short beforehand, which the animated short was amazing too.
That's so good, pal.
You got that too, right? Okay, cool.
That's so good, man.
So good.
Yeah, man.
I like it.
What's the movie that you guys are excited for now?
I was talking. I had this conversation the other. Yeah.
Madrid Noir.
I think you know when it comes out.
The other day about I think the one we talked about it earlier. The I'm a big comic book geek, so I'm really excited about the Spider-Man movie because it's going from a different Spider universe, which they don't really do. They don't really talk about the Spider-Verse and all this stuff. They do it in comics because that's how you have like Miles Morales,
well, the Spider World has always been. There's always been so many different Spider-Mans that come in and out and different timelines.
And then you had and then that's how you have all these other artists, back in the day and stuff like that, that would just, would do these different styles of Spider-Man and draw them in different ways, and how they interact with Spider-Girl and all the other good stuff. So like, it should be great. I'm very excited for that one.
Yeah, that one's. I think everybody's gonna be. I was thinking that probably that's also mine. Even though I'm not a super comic book guy, I grew up with Marvel comics a lot,
Right.
especially like in the.
Yeah, you said the right
But
one.
this would be like early 2000s or so. That the Runaways. Do you know that?
Yes.
I started reading comics as that show started happening.
Okay.
So that was like the first show that I followed week by week or month by month. And then I started reading like some of them on the background and some of the other like anthologies of this and that, Spider-Man, this, or Captain America. And it was Runaway and Civil War. I read those two as they were happening.
Nice. And then you have the whole influx of, more street culture coming into comic books back early 2000s, 2004. So you had your Kerry Randolphs, you had your Scotty Youngs.
Scotty Young.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so
you had
obsessed with that
you
guy,
had the
man.
Spider Clans and all the other stuff that he did before he went into his illustration background, which now he looks like a badass. We talked about this on the show before, Jack and Carlos and stuff. He mentioned how art changes, or artists evolve in styles and stuff like that. And you look at like Scotty Young's early stuff when he was doing the Spider-Man clan and Spider Clan and all that good stuff, the heavy fat hands and the graffiti style of all that good stuff. And now his stuff, he's like, mixed between that and Calvin and Hobbes type stuff. Which is,
with like super like traditional techniques.
He's like
inks
he's like a great like study on like artist evolution, stuff like that, because the stuff is so you can see his work in it, but it's so different than what it was before. Like, and I love it that and then he takes stuff like, what was it, the Wizard of Oz, the Wizard of Oz, and turns it on his head, and has the whole thing like that. This is great, so it's a good time to come up.
Your attitude problem.
You right?
You don't like you, an axe comes out.
Right?
What? Why is this?
What is it? I forget what it's called, but the main girl in his comic book idea, she walks around and she has an axe.
Oh, okay.
So if you cross her, she finishes you.
Oh shit! Cool. Yeah, I know. Like that guy is great. And I think it's a very good, like we were saying, it's a great study on style development,
right?
Because he hasn't relied on digital to make it grow. He understands that through traditional and the medium that he's using, making that part of the development or part of the style makes it stand out so much. It's so unique because nobody uses ink the way that he does, so nobody uses watercolors the way that he does. And that I think is really cool.
I can't wait to try to get him on the show too. I would love to talk to him because, like, I remember meeting him, as a sophomore in college at like, at the Comic-Con here in Chicago. He used to be part of a crew called Lead Heavy with other artists, and like he would come to back then it wasn't C2E2, it was Wizard World, which is
right. That's New York, right? That's New York.
That was they had one in New York and they have one in Chicago.
Okay.
And that used to be the comic book convention in Chicago. Now it's taken over to C2E2, the same company that puts on the Chicago, the San Diego Comic-Con and the New York Comic-Con. But back in the day, that was it. So being back in Artist Alley and him doing stuff, you see his rise, and then how Marvel embraced that, that culture of street culture and graffiti and all that stuff, and everybody started getting on, and then how they got embraced into to TV and cartoons and all that stuff, and all those guys started doing stints in animation there, and then him moving into illustration. It's just the interesting.
But that's the grade of like new talent coming into these industries. It has to change. It's inevitable. You cannot have these hundreds of 20-year-olds coming into an industry and expecting them to work and have the taste of guys that are now 50 or 60. And I think it's very healthy when things like new blood comes in. You have I think nobody's going to deny that Glenn Keane is the most amazing draftsman in the planet. But you need new blood. You need people that has a different taste and have a different understanding of design and shapes and curve and everything. And there's so much to learn from them, but also there's so much to allow new talents to come in and create great stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a dynamic there that's infectious. because the old guys, you get used to, and I know Noel's going to say something, but whatever. The old guys, you get used to doing things your way, right? And then, but you need the young people with fire that come in and help push you. And that's why it's important for those of us that have been in the industry for a while to go back to the schools and just hang out there. Because you have these kids that are really inspired to do some really cool stuff, and the energy that they're putting out there is necessary to keep you from stagnating, from doing the same thing over and over and over again.
And it is, I mean, like you said, it is a little bit of a feedback loop. It's a good dynamic when the two mix. Like for a long time when I was in visual effects, a digital domain, I sat next to this guy, Tom Saint Amand. He's like a 60+ guy, you know, but he worked on like the original Star Wars series, like in stop motion. He like, you name that, like you show this guy's demo reel and you're just like, I quit, right? He did like the AT-AT walkers. He did the like stop. He did the stop motion of the kid riding the bike over the moon in E.T. Like you name these iconic things, and he did it.
Isn't he the guy that did? Have you guys seen the making of Jurassic Park? And I'm
he's in that. He's in that.
He did those because it was meant to be stop motion.
Yeah, and some of it still is. Some of it was go motion is what they called it. They did this whole demo reel of animation test in stop motion of dinosaurs. Yeah, and it's insane. It's so good. It's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah, and so it's like sitting next to. He was like my desk mate for probably 3 years, and it's really fun sitting next to somebody. But you, like Carlos was saying, it creates this really great feedback loop because he's been doing this for 30, 40 years, and is still going strong as an animator. I mean, he learned CG. He's working on all that stuff. And he's learning stuff from us, from the young kids who know all the technology and know all the things and are up on the Tumblr, whatever. And then we're obviously learning from him because he's got all these just years and years and years of experience and like how stuff was done before and kind of like you said, the foundations. And it creates this like livelihood, this vibrant passion that I'm inspired by him. He's inspired by the younger guys, and it creates a really nice dynamic of the I don't want to say old, but the new and the experienced.
No, but it's true. Is that that ecosystem is part of it. You need to allow. I think something that you can really tell on TV, especially like the quality of TV animation that you get now compared to 20 years ago, it's ridiculous. Like just because all this this new blood coming in with taste in color, like the taste in background painting and colors and the taste in design is so. It's so new, and it's really making trends. I think that's something that TV animation is something that is it feels like it's way ahead of the curve in terms of also narratives compared to movies, because they're allowing things to happen and stories to be told that couldn't be before. And I think it's a lot of it is like you need the old guys of the industry that they understand how to direct or how to be the showrunner of a big thing because they have the experience, but they are smart enough to understand that this fire that these kids are coming up with, the stories, the gags, the humor, their look is what is going to fire up that production. Is going to make it stand out. But you do still need that knowledge, especially like I think as you become older in the industries, people want you. It's your experience is what makes you great, makes you valuable because you've seen. For sure. You've seen every possible problem in a production 100 times. So when you can see them a mile away. So and the kids are so busy. Like I just want to create amazing stuff that they cannot think, a year into production. Whereas someone that's been there for a while is like, this is amazing, but let me take it. Let me tweak it. Let me see what you're trying to do, and I'll make it work for the next 2 years of production. Yeah. And that symbiosis is what is super important. For everybody.
So we got to talking about this feedback loop and working with different people in the studios and stuff like that. What's it like for you working from home? Kind of, I'm assuming by yourself most of the time?
Yeah. Well, thankfully now I'm renting a desk in the studio. So I'm working with these guys from No Ghost and The Line, and everybody's working on this great production stuff. So it's nice to have people that are animators and they work in industry, and they are, it's great. So, but yeah, for the last 4 years now, I've been freelancing, and it's been mostly being alone at home, which makes it. That part, you create a routine. I think this happens to everybody. I ended up developing my own routine that works for me for my mental health, pretty much. And it's like, I need to go out and exercise every couple of days, or I need to get out of the house every day and get my coffee outside and do a walk for an hour before I come back home and start working. If I roll from the bed right into my desk and I start working, I get in a spiral of like self-loathing, and it's horrible. It's horrible.
Wow.
And so you need that. You need to make it feel like your routine involves like going out and walking and getting dressed and get a shower and go out and do some shopping and do some exercise and come back. But then it makes it really tricky. I think what is a bit hard is to feel part of the art team.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you are giving a lot to the movie, and you really want to make a great job, but you know that they're in the studio and they're working their asses off, but there's a dynamic between them that is affecting the production, and not being part of that is a bit of a drag. Yeah, it can be a bit of a drag. But yeah, it's not. I don't really have a choice though, so I try to make it work. It is a bit tricky though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that is important in order to create a routine. Get up and get out. I think even when I was making the transition, I'm at a full-time place now, but when I was making the transition, I started looking at a bunch of different places. I was talking to buddies of creative workspaces and stuff like that, in order to simulate. How can I simulate going to work? Or having to get up and do a commute if that needs to be, or even like. Twice a week, not even every day, but something where you feel like, Tuesday and Thursdays, I know I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go to this spot here. I'm going to be here and I'm going to work from here,
Yeah. Because it can be, it is really not healthy when you are like, because it can happen. And it happened to me a few times that you get into that routine, especially when you're on a deadline or things like that, or you have more than one project and you have to work a lot. So then the excuse is, I have so much work, I can't do anything else. So, which is a lie. It is a lie, because you can always have an hour to do something. To go out always, and taking that hour in and out of that drawing moment is not going to take away from your productivity. Nope. That's something that we tell ourselves at the time, but it is so true. And when you start on Monday and you're working and working and working, and all of a sudden you realize that it's Friday and the sunset is coming out, is going on, and it's night. And you haven't seen people in a while, and you have no plans for that Friday, and you're like, what is it really worth it? Is it really worth it that I'm just here for, because you at the end you put your work in front of everything, and then you realize that you have to make an effort to have a life that motivates you to keep doing your work, but you need to have something else.
Hobbies,
I think. You do, man. You do.
And it all, not just for personal health, but I think also for the creative growth. Like you need the input from outside, in order to keep evolving and keep pushing forward. If you get stuck in your zone and you're doing the same thing all day, every day, you kind of hit this, little track, and that's all you stay on. And in order to grow, you really need to get out.
Yeah. You need to get out.
Talk to people, see stuff, go exercise.
Yeah. And even if you are working from home, having a schedule really I think it's important. It's the little things, but let's say that even if you wake up at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., you're not going to start working until 10:30. So that gives you that morning of like, you know what, you can go and do shopping, you can clean your house, you can go for a run for 30 minutes and come back and take a shower, and then you start working. But you have that, and then at 8 p.m., you're going to stop. And you're going to be like, that's it. I'm not going to still stay on the computer. Even if you stay home, but you can, you can do all this stuff. And I think that, I think that's really important for anybody that is working from home. I think creating a schedule also makes you more productive, because sometimes when you get into this, and I think it happens to all of us. I can catch myself doing it sometimes, where I have all of my distractions at the same time as I'm working. So I have my YouTube and my Netflix and my Facebook and my email and all of these things as I'm working. So I'm doing these drawings and this, but then I'm every half an hour I'm watching an episode or something and I stay watching it, or I answer emails, so I'm on Facebook and this and that. And really I'm not being productive. And what could take me 4 hours to do, it ends up taking me 7 hours because I'm not really focused on what I should be doing. And then by the time I finish, it's 11 p.m. and then it's done. My day is done. If you have that schedule and you say, like, you know what, I'm going to take away all of these distractions and I'm going to sit down for 4 hours. Like if you were in an office and you do that, I assure you that you get your work done by 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. And then you can watch all the shows and all the movies that you want. But you are compartmentalizing your life a little bit more rather than everything sort of goes at the pile at the same time and you're doing everything at the same time, which can be a little bit of it's exhausting for your brain as well.
And that's one of the things that I did. I got a dry erase board and I spend the morning planning out my day. So then I because there's been times where I come here and I don't have a list, and I sit here and I think to myself, what am I going to work on today? And then I check on Facebook, and don't ever do that. Check on Facebook, and then like 4 hours later, you just got done, arguing about some stuff, some political stuff, and that's 4 hours of wasted time.
But that's now, especially like now you're going to Twitter or Facebook into the political thing, and every day it's a shit show. Every day there's something about Trump or something about Brexit or something about Spain has its own thing about his own politics, and it's also
Spain's always
it's a whole thing. So you can always find an excuse to get into a heated argument about something that goes nowhere.
Yeah,
because it never goes.
It has no resolve.
Never.
Right.
You say your point, they say their point, and then it doesn't come to a.
And it doesn't ever change anywhere.
Say another point.
It's worse. Anything to get more entrenched, and But the thing is, like, if you have your list of something to focus on, that way you're not wasting your time on, what am I going to work on now? And that, I mean, we all admitted we have like 25 projects in the ether that we want to get to.
Yeah.
And then like, so I have, you should see my reminders list. I have so many stupid ideas on this thing. And then I have the gumption to sit here and think, what am I going to work on? I don't know if I have anything, but I have a stupid long list of stupid things that I want to get to. Yeah. And I'm sitting here like, okay. I'm like, I guess I don't have anything to work on. Let me go check this.
well, no, totally right.
You're like, I guess I don't have anything.
It's because when you're thinking day by day, so when every day is a blank slate, and every day you wake up and like, well, what am I going to do today? And you have no clue, and then you start wasting time figuring out what to do. Mm-hmm. That way of doing your work or developing your professional life is, I think, it is very immature in a way, because if you let's say you want to work in your portfolio, right? And what a lot of people do is that they sit down on a Tuesday and they were like, okay, I have to do my portfolio, and they don't set themselves a deadline or what they have to do. They just start doing stuff until it's finished, and that could take 3 weeks or 2 weeks because they don't know what to do, whatever. But if you sit down the first day and you sit down and your mental process is like, okay, I'm going to plan my next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
To do my portfolio, and I'm going to set goals, and I'm going to be like, okay, by Thursday, I'm going to have the whole layout figured out. I'm going to have all the text figured out, and then I'm going to have to like, okay, then by Tuesday the next week, I'm going to do the first layout with the images, and then I'm going to, but you set yourself deadlines.
Absolutely.
And that way you sit down on that Wednesday or that Monday, and you know exactly what you have to do, because that day is like, oh, tomorrow I have to finish this part of my portfolio working. Same with projects. It's like, well, I'm going to dedicate this week to this project. So the first day, I'm just going to work on story, or I want to work on developing a scene. Then the next couple of days, I'm going to do this. And then you set up a deadline for that Friday. And that way, when you wake up the next day and you're working, you're not wasting time sort of with the anxiety of not knowing what to do. But you already have you have an idea that goes further than just today, right now.
Yeah.
it goes, and that really helps your brain to adjust and to do the work.
And to add to that, I mean, from the other side, from like a recruiting point, I think a lot of people get under this impression like, oh, it's my portfolio. It has to be my absolute best work. I need to keep working it until it's perfect. And I mean, you can look at this schedule thing, obviously from the practical standpoint of actually getting it done for your mental health, but also keep in mind, like one of the first things that employers and art directors and people are looking for is they want to know how efficient you are, how well you manage your time. So it's one thing to look at a portfolio and say, that's amazing, but that might have taken them 7 months to do. You can very easily say, this is my character design and then the full set of turntables or whatever. And it took me 4 days exactly. And that is like a really good indication of how quickly you work, how well you are, how well you are adjusted to a time frame and to deadlines.
Yeah. Especially like if you send a portfolio, like it happened to me, this could be good advice for some people, I guess. Like when I went to the US the first time in Europe, because in Europe the industry is small, the role of a generalist is very well appreciated. They want artists that can do layout, background, characters, painting, color. They know a little bit of everything, so they can fill up all these gaps in production. Mm-hmm. In the US, it's the opposite way. They want people to be super specialized. Yeah. So one of my first problems or missteps when I went to try to interviews in the US is that they would see my portfolio and they would be like, well, I don't know what role you want to fill in. I don't know which part of the production do you want to do, because you just have a bunch of stuff from different. So, and then I had to go back and sit down for 2 weeks, and I had to create 2 portfolios. One that was more focused on character stuff, and one that was more focused on layout and background and stuff like that. And being able to have a structured week or a structured few days to like know how you're going to do that and sort of just really think about how to do it, and then being able to send them a new portfolio within a week.
That's cool.
It's really good. Going back to what your point is, you're not taking another 7 months to do and I have to make all these new things. Yeah. Because most of the times you don't need the much more new material. It's just the way you present your material. Yeah. Is more relevant. Like instead of doing more backgrounds, just take that background and show the process of how you made it. Yeah. And show the line work and values and this and color test and stuff. But it's the way that you present it. Yeah. And that, to what you said, is totally true. Like people appreciate when you can be concise, consistent or concise, to your work, and this is what you want to do. This is how you show it, and also presentation is a big plus. Like nobody wants to see a bunch of drawings weirdly connected with name tags around and hard to follow. Learn a little bit of layout. Learn a little bit of like formatting text. How do you make a book? You need to know basic rules of like how do you distribute text and how do you put things together to make it look nice and easy to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because a portfolio is not just to show off your good work, but it's also you're leading your potential employer into thinking a very specific thing or image about you. And I think one of our previous guests, Dave Adsey, said this. He's like, don't put anything in your portfolio you don't want to do. It's like, if you don't want to be painting color scripts and color layouts all day, don't put a bunch of that in there, because they're going to say, oh, this guy's a color guy. Let's hire him to do that. If you're a character designer, focus on character design. And like you said, even if you are a generalist, you have to tailor your portfolio a little bit to each place you're applying, just in the same way you would a resume. So, and like you said, you probably already have the work. You don't need to freak out and say, oh my God, they're only looking for character designers. Just show your process, expand on what you already have, and show that.
Exactly. So I had this moment where I was getting most of my work 2 or 3 years ago was I got obsessed with a couple of artists that I liked that were really good at, one of them like Sam Nilsson, or there's a guy that works at Blue Sky called Jose Manuel Oli. And these guys are amazing at render, and they can render materials in an amazing way. Oh, no, don't do that. Then that's embarrassing.
Don't worry about it. Keep going.
Okay, so what it's going to say is that I used to do these really rendered, all the fur and feathers and all this stuff, all the lighting. and I started getting jobs only to do that. To the point where, like, not even my characters, but they wanted me to go over their characters and paint over them and do that. And I realized, oh shit, this is not what I want to do, because and then I did a conscious decision of, like, I took down most of my rendered work, and I just created a new portfolio with only character design stuff that I felt was more in line with what I wanted to do.
Interesting.
And that helped. Because that's the thing. Not just because you have the skill to do something like backgrounds or rendering things a lot. That doesn't mean that has to be your job. Because that can be a surprise later on. Like, they could hire you for character design, and then eventually they have a problem with a background and be like, well, I can also do this, and then you can help out. But the main reason they hire you is because you can do what you really want to do. And I really had to take down all of that work and just create a new portfolio with more flat stuff that is more driven on silhouette and character design to more the development state. And that got me all these new jobs that I'm way more happy to do than rendering stuff. And even now, if they need me to render something, I'll do it. But it's not the main reason why they call me.
Yeah.
And that's something I think everybody should be aware of, like what you said. Like, don't put things in your portfolio that you don't want to do as a professional.
Yeah.
What was it that you're kind of talking about that right now, but what were the steps that you took to go from not being a paid artist to actually having your own studio and you're working freelance and doing that good stuff? So actually, even before that, what were some of the steps that you took to build the portfolio to lead up to your big break?
I don't even know if my big break has happened already, but no, but I know what you mean. It is tricky because there is a lot of very talented people that don't get jobs, and it is a tricky thing to balance. Let me think for a little bit. I think it took me a while to believe that I should get paid for my work.
Oh, okay.
Let's say that first. Like it took me a while to have the confidence to be like, I'm good enough to be paid for what I'm doing. And that's something that the first time that I got paid to do something was when I was in Singapore. I got hired to work. There was these guys doing a drawing app for phones. And they wanted someone to showcase work through that app and to go to events and do like live drawings to attract people to the booth so they could talk about the app. And that was the first time that I got paid for my work. And that was the first time that I started thinking that now my work is in a place where it adds value to the people, the company that are hiring me. My work has some value to them. Then from there to getting a job, a lot of it has to do with understanding what companies need. It wasn't like I didn't need a portfolio of this is my work and these are my drawings, just hire me. It was more like, well, if I want to make a living, let me sit down for a second and what do people in companies need right now? What is it that a game company needs that I can do and I could get paid? Because I think it's more important to get a job in the industry than to get the perfect job right away.
Right.
Because once you have a job, then you are legitimized. Then you are a paid artist.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the most amazing thing and it's not what you want to do in 10 years or in 5 years or not your dream job, you are already being paid to draw, which is an amazing thing. Already, that's of the even if you're doing icons for mobile games, which is what I did for a long time. Because then once you're getting paid to do jobs, once you have experience, you get mileage, right? Like you get 2 years working in a company. You already learn communication skills, people skills, production skills. You start creating a portfolio and you get paid, so you can save money and go to events like CTN or Children's Horse and invest in your own future. You can pay for online classes, and you can pay for equipment. You can pay for a Cintiq. You can, it's working by itself is already amazing. Like, do that. Like, be smart about it, and don't be too driven by your own ego and what you want to do. Think about what companies need. Even if in your country, if you are from Germany or Sweden and you cannot go and work at Disney, it's okay if for the first 2 or 3 years you work on a game company, helping them out with some, images for the App Store, or you're working on icons. And dude, you are going into very old drawings, and I'm getting a bit embarrassed right now.
We'll stop.
It's okay.
You can go to the Instagram.
It's okay. If you go to the Instagram, there's more recent stuff. Or if you want to show like some of the.
We've been showing Instagram on Twitch, so yeah, you're good. Mm-hmm.
Oh, are we on Twitch as well?
Yeah, we're on both. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hi. But yeah, I think so I didn't get the job I wanted right away, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with if you have to draw icons for King for the Candy Crush, that's a job. That is a job, and you're paying your bills, and you're meeting people, and you're learning skills. And then that allows you to go to festivals and meet people and understand a bit better what the industry needs at that time, or sometimes you learn what you're good at by helping in a production, and you're not aware that that's exactly what you're the best at. And you learn new talent. You learn you have new talents. And then once I had my job for a couple of years, and I went to CTN for a while, and I realized what were the things that I could do that were valuable to other people. In this case, was color rendering characters. That was something that I realized that's something that people reacted to in a very positive way. So then I came home, and I had those 6 months where every day after work, I would develop characters, or I would paint characters really realistically, and I would do a whole set of I would do animals and humans and different clothing, so they could see that I could render metal, I could render cotton, I could render skin, I could do hair, I could do fur, I could do feathers, I could draw animals, I could do all these things. And then that got the attention of production companies in London that do advertising. Sure. And a lot of advertising requires CG looking, realistic looking characters, because they're going to be interacting with humans. Right, so you have all these Christmas ads where you have animals that move around, and they create a Christmas tree for a family, and it's a Christmas ad or whatever. Those animals need to be designed, and they need a very realistic looking fur thing. So again, it wasn't my favorite thing to do, but I realized that there was a need for that. And it was something that I could do, and that I could learn by doing it more. And then I got jobs doing that, and then once I had enough experience in production doing character, and an enough big client pool, that's when I was able to say, well, now I'm not going to do that anymore. And now I'm going to do what I want to do, because I believe that I'm good enough at it, and that I have enough, a support system around me of clients that already know me, and productions houses that already have worked with me, so they know how reliable I am, and then I could start setting boundaries. But you cannot just get out of school and already say, I don't do that. I don't work on this sort of stuff. This is my style, and you have to adapt your production to my style. That never works.
Never works. Yeah.
That never works for anybody. Mm-hmm. So be humble, and a job is a job. And I'm a big defendant on that. Anything that you can get is great to start. And there's no shame in doing Candy Crush for 5 years or 2 years before you can, King. No, it's not. There's no shame on it, because we all start somewhere.
There's not, and I think another thing to keep in mind is this job that you may view as sort of your entry, and you're not loving it. That there's dozens, if not hundreds of thousands of other people that would kill for that job. That is their end job. They want to work on Candy Crush, or they want to, you're doing feather paint overs for Blue Sky or whatever it is, and you're wanting something else. But there's always somebody, there's no shame in that. Every position is sought after to some degree,
Right. Yeah. And then you need that network, because I do the key to having a consistent working industry is having a network of people. And the only way to do that is by working in those companies and having those conversations. So even if you are in those companies not doing exactly what you want, be patient, because eventually those people that you're working with, they know that you have more talent than what you're doing in that company, and they might move somewhere else, and they might need someone with your skill and be like, you know what, that kid actually is better than what you all think, and I'm going to take it with me to this other company, and he's going to do this great thing for me. And that network is really what's going to create a career for you. It's not your talent is what opens your door, like the door to the industry, but what is going to keep you in the industry is the network. It's not your work. That's because even if you're the most amazing drawer, but you're an asshole,
that's
nobody's gonna care.
Folks, that becomes your downfall.
That becomes your downfall. Like, he draws really well, but he's so annoying to work with. Forget it.
Constant. I hear that. It's like, I've heard too many bad things about that person. Let's pass.
And that's all it takes. It doesn't take, like, it's not someone making a complaint to HR.
No.
It's someone in a bar with a friend saying, that guy's a bit of a dick. And that's it. Done. That's all you need to know. And then it's not, that's what it takes. So you have to just build that network. And any way you can do it is super valuable.
Right.
Super valuable.
And personality is definitely a currency. It can even if you're not exactly the person that they're looking for, maybe you don't have the experience, I guess. As long as you're teachable, people will bring you in and
but to add to that, and kind of what we were talking about early, you were talking about the folks at the studio, and you miss out on being part of that team. And I think that to this point, that's kind of one of, aside from the quality of the work, that's one of the first things, we talk about about candidates and resumes. We say, we feel like they would be a good fit with this team, the current team, because each project has its own personality and its own types of people. And you want to bring someone in that's going to fit well and foster the passion and foster the vision. Not somebody that's like totally way off of left field and it's just going to bring everybody else down.
Not going to get along. It's totally true. And that's as a producer, you must know that that's the key to a good team.
Right.
Is not only that everybody does something is amazing at drawing, but is that that those guys are going to be happy to have conversations about their work. They're going to be they're going to be able to crack jokes about it. They're going to have fun. They're going to be able to nurture each other through sharing experiences and sharing what they think about each other's work. That's what you want. It doesn't matter if someone is better than other drawing horses. It's just, we can all learn how to draw a horse. We can all learn how to draw horses for that show.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. Maybe.
No, it's totally true, because I'm laughing because that actually just happened this week. Is they hired somebody and we all walk out of the room and we said, well, we hope they draw horses well. Like that didn't even come up in like the interview. It wasn't even in the nothing. It was totally like great artist, great person, perfect fit for the team. And then it was like an afterthought, like, well, we hope they draw horses well.
I really like that guy.
But that's what you need. Like, because if he's a nice guy, you can then go, well, spend the next couple of days looking at these references and these style guides and try to get and learn how to do the horses for the show. And that's something that we all learn how to do. Like, that's just part of it. We can all learn.
Sure.
That's totally it. Right. Like now we are talking with someone to come in for a production position for Madrid Noir. And he's a great guy that I worked with in the past, and he was very humble about it, saying that, hey, I don't have experience in VR and this and that. At one point I had to say, well, nobody has experience in VR. that's like anybody that goes around saying I am a guru in VR, I'm an expert in VR, is full of shit. Because it's a 5-year-old industry or a 6-year-old industry. Nobody is a senior expert in VR production or pipeline production for VR, because there's not even a real pipeline for VR. Every studio has to make it as they go, as when they're creating VR stuff. What you're looking for is not someone that has experience in VR, but someone that has that depth of character that you can trust, someone that has the taste, someone that understands the people that you're working with. Because then the VR market, you can learn it. you read a few articles, you stay for a few months around, and you have the conversations, and you learn how it works. But what you want is someone that fits with the team and understands what we're trying to do. Because everything else, you can just learn it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And with good team dynamics, everyone is going to push everyone else. Everyone's going to get better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
That's very true. Because also, like, when you are working with your friends or people that you care about, you don't want to let them down.
Right.
And there's that emotional integrity that keeps you working hard and trying to make your best, because their work depends on you making your work really nice and that keeps you motivated because you care for them. Because if you didn't care about your team, you would just do the shittiest job possible and just go home and don't care. And then nobody wins. Then nobody gets anything out of this. So that's never the point.
So let's talk about Madrid Noir. How did that idea come about? And then, basically, I want to get into like the team dynamics of the folks that you're working with, and is it everything that you've wanted in life?
Well, let's start with how it came up, the idea first. Like I said, it was something that came out through as I was working on this other VR project, Melita, and man, all my friends are going to make fun of me when they hear this interview. I started working on that, and then I like genre movies. I like horror. I like noir. I like that sort of stuff. I like also the indie, more like a coming of age story sort of thing. But I really like when people get a genre and a set of rules, and they try to work within those rules to create something that is recognizable and interesting and cool. So noir has always been a genre that I really like it. I just like the texture of it, how it sounds.
Why I brought you on the show.
Look at this.
I
wish I had a filter. You can just make this all black and white right now.
And I just say it. I one of my long life dreams is to make a short or a film that is and I want to make Chinatown in animation. That would be so cool. Like I want people like smoking and getting stabbed and shooting guns from like the hip and saying things like "Not tonight, baby," and it's closing the door. And I want all of that. I want it all. And so I wanted to it's like, well, if I'm gonna do a theater play, I'm gonna do a noir theater play. That's out of the question. And then the Madrid element of it came afterwards. That was something that, as I was sort of thinking about the project, I always imagined that in LA or Chicago or New York, because that's when you think about noir, those are all the imagery that we all have.
Yeah.
But there was a part of me that was thinking that, well, what can I add to the imagery of those cities? Like those cities have been done in a noir environment a million times. And I'm not an American person. I never lived there at all. So what am I really going to add to that aesthetic in those places? And that, because it felt a bit not genuine really when I was doing it. Okay. So I remember, and at that time I was, I'm an immigrant. Right, so I came from Spain, but I come from a family of immigrants. My dad was Cuban and had to leave Cuba. Yes. Yeah, man. Yeah, from Havana, and they had to leave Cuba in because of Castro and whatnot. And then my mom is Irish, but they moved to Spain when she was a teenager. So I come from a family that comes from all over the place. But I grew up in Madrid in Spain, and I consider myself Spanish. But I didn't consider myself so Spanish until I left Spain. I think that happens to a lot of people, that when you grew up in that place, you're like, ugh, this is old and tacky, and it doesn't represent me because I'm so great and special. And then when you go away, you realize that all of those things that you thought were so special about you because you were so genuine actually come from being from that place.
Yeah.
And you start realizing that you start treasuring it a little bit more. And then and then at that time I went back. I was going through a moment where like I realized like how Spanish I was. Like I said, it was something that it never defined me when I was in Spain. But when I was outside of Spain, it became a big thing because I started relating and missing things that to me I took for granted when I was back there.
And you become the Spaniard of the group, and you have all these things that no one can relate to or they don't understand.
Yes. And at that time, I started finding these YouTube channels and Facebook videos where people find lost footage from the 1920s in different countries. So you have all these beautiful like silent movies from the 1910s. About in New York or in Brooklyn or even in Shanghai, and you see this. It's like a window into a different. It's like a time machine, literally. Like you are. It's not a movie. It's not a movie set. You are actually seeing the streets of Manhattan being walked by people in the 1910s. It's insane. And I got into a whole like the spiral of those, and then I started finding a few of Madrid. And it was really cool seeing it like back in the day. And then I traveled to Madrid for vacations and then I started seeing the city from a very different light. And I started seeing the things that I used to hate when I was a kid. It started becoming things that made that city unique and interesting. And so there was this sort of like little and then it started making sense to set the story in Madrid in the 1930s because it was people are familiar with Europe in the 30s through Paris or Germany but Madrid is like an untapped territory because it was a big city in the 30s. It was a big, important, relevant place, like cultural hub, but it's not been sort of exposed to the world in many ways because right in 36 we had 37. Probably someone would yell at me for getting this wrong, but I think it was in 1936 we had a civil war. A civil war started in Spain, and so all those decades are very tinted
I was going to ask,
war
with Franco and all that stuff, like, was there any sort of like major censorship going on? Was it kind of, or is it purely because it was a civil war that it created?
I didn't have an intention to go and make a political statement.
No. I just meant in terms of how sometimes like the culture of a certain time period can sometimes get lost, or revisionist history sort of takes it away because of the situation.
I do think so, and I think that totally happened, and I think it's not being explored because you cannot set up a story. That's a problem with Europe, is that there's so much history that you cannot go and do something in any decade without finding something. There's some war, genocide, there's something going on. But there was a moment in Spanish history, like in the early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, where we had the Second Republic that lasted for a small window of time.
Sure.
But it was a very peaceful time. And it was this sort of beautiful, great, where like culture was allowed to flourish, and there was the generation where we have all the super famous like Spanish writers and poets and plays and all that stuff. It was this sort of golden age of the 20th century, and it kind of made sense that I want to explore that. I want to explore that side of Madrid. And I think if I put it on the story, if I set the story in Madrid, it gives me an excuse to really deep and research this thing and going to find the footage and the photographs and the text and the writing and the newspapers and do all of that stuff. And that's sort of those three things, like the theater, Madrid, and the noir genre. Those are the three pillars that made the project. Like I had the three things, it kind of made sense. Like sometimes when you have an idea and it's sort of blurry and you don't really know how to see it, and then you add an element or take something out, and then everything sort of makes sense.
Quick
is fixed. So that's sort of how it started. And then on my own and with with the help of a friend, we started developing some of the characters or the look of it. Like we did this one poster that I think is the one that we've been using for promotional images, like this sort of orange and blue poster, this image that is taken from references from posters from that time for theater plays. And that started making a style, make sense of a style. And then once I had a bit of a pitch, I had like the characters were pretty clear, the story was pretty clear, and the look of it was pretty clear. I went to No-Gos, these guys that I had met a couple years ago that do VR and stuff, and I just pitched it to them. I was like, hey, would you want to develop this a little bit more with me and see what we can do with this? And they were on it from the beginning. They had been wanting to explore fiction and creating stuff from scratch, like not just because they do a lot of 360 videos and stuff like AR stuff for clients, and they wanted to create something unique and of their own. And so we started this adventure, and it started like, becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we are in production, and we have like another month and a half or 2 months of production going on. And that's sort of how it came about. It was more of like a story of in a kind of like a selfish way, but it was me sort of, well, not selfish. Let me rephrase that. I think is what makes any project interesting is when you can see when the author of that project is putting something of their own story, or is discovering something about themselves through that project.
Yeah,
that makes it really relevant when there's a piece of somebody's soul or somebody's history in the project that they're developing.
totally.
And I was very afraid at the beginning because I was afraid that if I made it too Spanish looking or too regional, it would alienate anybody from an outside market or one outside audience.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it's been completely the opposite. I think it goes back to what we were talking about before, that it's something unique and different. It's still recognizable, but because it's something that they haven't seen before, but it's still appealing, it's fascinating to some people because all of a sudden they're being shown a world or a reality that they had never seen before.
Yeah.
And that, I think, it was something that it goes on. I was afraid that it was going to be on our detriment, but it actually ended up being to our favor.
Nice.
So that was pretty nice. And what was the other part of the question? Sorry, I talked for too long.
Oh no, it's okay. And now that the project has picked up steam, what's it like bringing this idea and building a team around it? Was that a lot of stress? To be honest, like I've been super lucky in the sense that everybody had the right attitude, and this is something really cool. I think everybody in the project, like everybody in the team at No-Gos, there are 5 guys, and I think each of them, and I learned this through time and talking with them, they saw something in the project that they could relate to personally.
Sure.
So, for example, like one of the guys, turns out that he has a long history of going to theater with his parents, and he loves theater. And I didn't know this when I pitched to them, but he saw an opportunity to explore that side of himself through this project. And same with the guys that are doing all the modeling and the shading, and they all see something that they want to explore. The shading guy, for example, he's just like, he really wanted to develop a really cool toon shader in Unreal that works in VR because he's not been done successfully before, and he really wants to crack it from, like, he wants to code the whole thing from scratch because he just wants to explore that. And that, I think, is really, it was a blessing because everybody wanted to, there was something on it for them that they could have fun doing. And then, for example, like in the art side, it's been really easy because everybody gets it. And I think for everybody, it's very appealing. All my friends that have been helping me out with this, it's appealing enough that they can do something that they think is worth it, and that it takes them away from client work that is a bit boring. And all of the people that I'm doing it with, they ended up having the same experience that I did. Like I've made an effort to get people that are Spanish and they live in Madrid, because it's very hard. I think it would be very hard for someone that is not from Spain to design props or sets or characters that feel Spanish, because there's a feeling to them. The way they move or the way they dress is very specific. And that, I think, a good example of that is the music. We got this composer, Carlos Rodriguez, that he's a Spanish guy that lives in Vienna. It's not Vienna. I always get it wrong. It's around. It's near Vienna, but he lives there and he graduated there, and he's an orchestra director and a composer, and he's has experience doing commercial, like music for commercials and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But he saw it was very tricky to find someone that could compose a jazz soundtrack that has reminiscent elements of the Spanish music of that time. And it would be very hard for any English or American music composer to get that taste right. And we got this guy, and he saw it, like he right away understood what I was going for. And literally his first test, I was blown away because it's literally what it had to do. So in terms of finding a team, everybody has been a blessing, and everybody's been doing an amazing work. And I could not ask for a better team. I could ask for hopefully get enough money so I don't feel so guilty asking for favors, because you end up feeling guilty at one point, because these people are working for amazing companies and amazing clients, and they are super talented, and they are giving you their valuable time to do this thing. And at one point, it gets very heavy just keep asking for favors. So it would be amazing if I could just be able to make sure that I could pay all of these amazing people to do this. That would be amazing. But in terms of like the team, it's fucking blessed from the heavens. It's so good. It's so fucking good. I couldn't ask for anybody else. Because every time anybody sends something, we're all like super excited because we know it's gonna be great. And now there's this friend of mine, Nacho Molina, who's working as a color artist for Sony as well. He's doing color art, the color keys for this, and his work is blowing our minds. And everybody's so excited about it. And that's going back to what we were saying before about working in teams. I think everybody's really doing a great job because once they understand the project and they want it to work, and also because they know that everybody else in the team is so good that you want to do your best. You want to be part of something that is great. And that's been fucking. And then, from my point of view, it's amazing because I don't get to do anything anymore. Because I did all the designs, I did all the stuff. That's done. I now just get to tell people how great the work is all the time. And I mean, I got to deal with the pressures of the festivals and press and get everything ready and finished. But the kid in me is amazed that all these people are doing this amazing work for something that I thought about. That's fucking insane. That's a ridiculous idea.
So
yeah.
Here's a question based off.
Please. Stop me because I go and talk.
You're good. We want you to keep talking. Okay. But the big thing is, because I also work in VR also, and I want to understand how your team is set up based off you working in Unreal. Unreal, we know, is a real time engine. Not getting too technical, but you said you're about five guys. It's five developers. Well, it's 5 guys from Nogos. Yes. Okay, cool. So how's that team set up? Is it like how many are developers? How many are artists?
So there's a lot of them do more than one thing because the small teams you have to end up like sharing.
Right. The journalists, right. Mm-hmm.
So none of them animate, for example. Well, we're doing set animation, so the props animation that's done in the studio. But animation is something that we are outsourcing to friends of ours that have come from companies here in London, and we had 3 animators coming over and doing animation for this. So that's something that someone else is doing.
Right.
Now, me and my team, my group of friends, that we're doing all the art department stuff. So all the color keys, design, all of that. So they are doing all the modeling and rigging, and then all the developer stuff to put on engine. So there's one that is an artist that is a pure model, like a modeler, and he does all the texture painting, modeling, and rigging, and some of the animation. So he's this sort of like 3D generalist, but he doesn't do any of the development in terms of engine or whatnot. Then they have a producer, so he's the one helping, making sure that everything works right. And then there's 2 guys, Tom Flavel and Jack, and they Jack Straw. and they are the Jack is the full-time amazing developer. He's the sort of like technopath that he's writing. We're doing it on Unreal, but he's building tools from scratch so we can use them like for the project. So all the shading, all the lighting, that's something that Jack is like creating from scratch.
Okay, cool.
Coding. And then we have Tom, and Tom is the one that is really working with the engine. So he's also a modeler.
Cool.
But he's the one sort of putting everything on engine. So he's putting all the assets, all the animation that is in Maya. He's taking all of that and putting it on. But it's one guy. But the one guy it's a bit scary because I think it happens with like he has his own way of working, like anybody does. So it's tricky because since we don't have a big team to do this, he's doing everything his own way of doing stuff. So we need him. He's the one that is sort of filtering all the work of everybody and managing to put it on the engine. Probably I'm saying some stuff wrong, and maybe he'll tell me Monday, and on Monday he'll tell me, James, you're a piece of shit. You are saying it wrong. But that's how I think he's kind of working. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a very small team. And
that's awesome.
It's cool that it's happening. And we are getting help on rigging as well, and animation, and of course music and sound design. That's also coming from another set of friends.
Well, it helps to know that you're importing Maya as your main animation tool set, and you're importing those things in, and this guy is setting everything up.
Yeah, that's it.
Scenes and stuff like that, setting it all up.
But then I think effects, like visual effects, that's happening. That is being done in Unreal.
That could save you. Yeah, because Unreal, that's a really nice.
So we're doing that in Unreal, and then just putting it in the scene. Animation is being done in Maya. Modeling is being done in Maya as well, and rigging as well. So all of our traditional animation pipeline that happened in Maya, and then that is imported into Unreal.
Textures are being turned into shaders, which are being applying in Unreal also.
Yeah, sure. I cannot
say yes. It's good. You're good.
Yeah,
all that stuff is coming in. So it feels like your big pot that everything gets created in. I'm sure cameras and all that good stuff.
All the cameras and all that stuff is both done in Unreal. All that's done there,
which is nice because instant feedback. You don't have to wait for a render.
Well, that's the very thing that blew my mind, and I really think
I'm sure you're spoiled. You're spoiled if you go back to
This is the future, guys. Forget about rendering. Rendering is a thing of the past. The future is real time animation pipelines.
Yeah,
because the fact that there was a moment when we were setting this teaser trailer, right? And we have this scene all animated, lit, and everything is in real time. And you can just sort of looking for the right angle for the camera to work. But the animation is looping. So I'm seeing the animation working with all the effects and the lighting and the textures and everything. The same way that you're going to see it on the final product. Right. I'm just seeing it through this camera, and I'm just moving around. And then I had this moment where I'm like, holy shit, like this is, if you were doing an animation production and you had this scene in Unreal and you have these characters having a conversation and you animate them, you could go into Unreal, put all the textures, put all the stuff in, and then as a real time, a live action director would do, you can set up 3 cameras around these actors, and you can capture footage, and then you can edit. And you can go into Premiere, you can edit the way you would edit a movie because you have all these footage, all these characters animated, and you can say, well, I want to say when this guy says this, I want to cut to this close-up of his mouth.
You can do that in Unreal.
Yeah. You can do it in Unreal.
So I can do it in Unreal or the other program that does the same thing as Unity. So I can do all that
Unity,
stuff in Unreal.
Thing.
So
it's amazing.
If the camera systems now are set up now where we have stuff at work where if the character's walking through the scene, right, and you could be in VR looking at this, and you can just walk around, get a different angle, right? But if the camera gets occluded by a rock or a wall, we instantly cut to a different camera automatically.
Okay.
It's natural. It's one of those really nice things that the Unity timeline took where their cameras are dynamic. You can really move stuff so that you always get a good shot if you set all those cameras up where the camera's oh no, I'm passing in front of this mic. Cut to this camera here, so that it's really nice. But all that stuff with the timeline in Unreal, you can do it right in there too.
That's it. It could totally change the pipeline of animation. Forget about the whole storyboarding layout. I mean, not forget about it, of course. But, forget about having like everything has to cater to this one camera angle.
Right.
It's more like, let's create a beautiful scene like you would do for an actual movie. So you create a movie set that where you would do that. And then you can just sort of like have these animators and then you have these animators like, hey, animate me this minute and a half of this scene. And then I'll choose where to put the camera to capture this action. And then I can go and say, like, you know what? Here I'm going to have like a one shot. And here I'm going to have like this trolley, like all this pan up. And I'm doing it like after the animation is done.
Yeah,
that is
it's
so cool.
If you look at the camera rigs in Unreal, they actually have like dollies and stuff that you attach the camera into, just like you have on set, and you move those, throughout.
No, you can even do even cooler, where you can capture with your VR headset. Yes, so you are the camera, and you can put on the VR headset, and you can be like, capture now, and then you are moving as if you were the dolly, and you're moving around. Yeah,
you can attach like a DSLR too, like a regular camera. You attach that to you can even do a steady camera or whatever, or a rig like that. Have that sync to the camera in Unreal, and then move it on the sound stage also. Yeah.
That's it, guys.
You want to do the headset if you want to do the camera.
That's it, guys.
That's it. Go to DreamWorks and pitch to them. We're going to do a real-time animated show.
Should do it. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. That's the future, guys.
There's another show.
I like how excited you got. Like, he's like, I don't want to get too technical, but look at all this exciting stuff.
Yeah. But like, there's another one. There's a TV show getting put on. It's called.
Well, there was something made with animals. That one. That one is all unreal.
That one's amazing. The lighting and
what is it?
It's called Safari. Look it up real quick. It looks beautiful, very Madagascar-ish. And if I'm trying to describe it, but meets lighting quality, Pixar, and all that stuff. It's a TV show that they put on each week, totally done in Unreal.
Yeah, and the quality is really freaking good.
Ooh. Yeah. It's
my you drop the link because I'm getting all sorts of other stuff about some
right.
Delhi Safari?
Safari.
Oh, Zafari. Got it
right here. I got the link for you right now.
Oh, there it is. I see it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. With the zebra.
Zebra
elephant.
Yeah. But like the quality of it, like look at how the animation is, the rig, the vegetation. They have this jungle on, like. The water is just crazy, man. Like, and another thing that I was already dreaming about is like doing a mini TV series with Madrid Noir in Unreal, and just do it all in real time. And because of course you have to cater, design has to be a part of it, and because you cannot do fully renders hair and things like that. But if you have stylized characters and a stylized look, you can totally do it in real time.
Yeah. Well, have you seen? I mean, all the new stuff they have, like with Epic, the guys who made Unreal, like you should see some of their real time looking realistic stuff. They have an eye shader that's amazing. They have hair now. Because it gets updated every couple of weeks. That's the cool part about it, is it keeps getting updated. And some of the new stuff they're doing, I think they had the British guy that's on FX PhD all the time. He talked to them. They did a recreation of him, and they're showing like how their avatars look. Let me find it and I'll show you guys. Put it in the show notes, but it's looking amazing. You want to go that realistic route too, but like their hair system has improved just in the last couple patches, as well as the skin shader just improved too, man. And a bunch of other stuff.
So cool. They're so cool. And going back to what we're talking about, Spider-Man as a movie coming out, like the moment you can create high quality stylized animation that doesn't look CG and doesn't look cheap, and that's gonna be a massive breakthrough. I think like the moment you can start creating things that is in Unreal, is gonna become so less expensive to make productions, because you're cutting a third of the budget in rendering. And you're just doing everything in real time. And then when that allows other people, new creators, new companies from different countries to create quality products, you are going to have a really healthy animation environment. where like
I just wanted to
cool
keep
productions.
going. I just wanted to keep going with the development. Unreal's been doing a really good job working with companies like the Mail and other ones where like we jumped on this like a year and a half ago before where it was not as good. Now they have Unreal Studio, which is a tool set used for architectural because ArchViz has jumped on it. Broadcast, you know how recreating the sets on like say a ESPN or newscasting or CNN or something.
Right.
Recreating the whole set. So the whole set is really green screen, but then they're showing it real time in Unreal. That's kind of cool, but I want them to we were doing stuff like we were exporting out passes from Unreal so that we can re-import them in using like Nuke or something else like that and then build the scene that was doing more of that traditional setup that way. But now that the new particle systems and the VFX software inside Unreal is better now, they just upgraded it with this patch, so that looks amazing too. I just want to keep going. Like they have better ways of exporting out that video because at some point, if you don't want to do VR and you want to export it out as just a video or something like that, they're getting better and better at doing that process of like doing it out of Unreal as a finished package. Which once they got that perfectly,
man,
it's gonna be, you can do whatever you want.
So cool. I want to do it. I want to do it so bad.
Yeah.
So cool.
So good. All right.
So let's go ahead and get into.
Here they come. Here they come, yo. Here they come.
What's happening?
Just wait.
James Castillo. This or that?
Little game we play.
Little game.
Do you pick one? Twitter or Instagram?
I recently started doing Twitter because it's something that I never play with.
Yo, we
Just
used
recently.
to get pick Instagram. Yeah, he went back to Twitter. Yeah, nice. Okay.
And I went in because I thought because I was lacking because it feels like Facebook, you have your own bubble of friends and you only see because of the algorithm, you only see what your friends or your close people.
Yeah.
You have your own 20
for
friends that you see that. And then it became this like a bit of like a boring environment because like nothing new is happening. And people are not really having conversations because then people get offended and then your mom goes in and your uncle goes in and then
your mom goes in.
And it's a whole mess. But Twitter is I just started realizing that is what developers use to share information and about their projects and what they're doing. And it became this much more interesting avenue to learn about productions and people's work and stuff like that. Instagram is really cool, of course, because you can put all your drawings and you get all these followers and stuff. But I don't really learn anything through Instagram.
Okay.
I just showcase my stuff. But Twitter I'm really learning stuff through conversations and people and stuff. So I would go with Twitter.
Cool. Yeah.
I like it. Let's see. Augmented reality or virtual reality?
Virtual reality, man. Of course. 100%.
He's like, I just went on a 2-hour talk about how cool it was.
How cool it fucking is. It's great.
All right. Would you rather work on a cartoon or a kid's book?
A kid's book. I want to do. That's the one thing that I haven't been able to tap into is publishing. Really, I did that thing a few years ago with my friend, but that was a very small run in a small publisher in Spain. I would love to do publishing. I don't know how to get in. I don't really know anybody in publishing. I have no idea how that works, but that'll be really cool. I'd love to explore that.
Get yourself an illustration agent.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the key.
Yeah.
Incredibles or Monsters Inc?
Ah.
Nah, I gotta go with Incredibles, man. Even though I do love monsters, but I think Incredibles goes to what I was saying, that I just love genre movies. Like there's something about it, and then Brad Bird, you just can't go wrong, and it's just Incredibles. Yeah.
Let's see. Do you prefer the idea stage or we have a finished product stage?
I would go with the idea stage. Because that's it's really where the creative fumes and everything is happening, and you can put a lot of things in there. The one thing that is a bit annoying about it is that it's very flimsy. Like you can create things that you're in love with, but the process of finishing that thing is so tedious and complex that it might get thrown away or things get canceled and stuff. So sometimes it's heartbroken. Mm-hmm. And there's something, and sometimes you can feel like you're doing ideas and creating stuff for ideas that is a bit pointless because it might never go anywhere. Whereas when you're working on production and you're doing pieces of work like backgrounds or characters or poses for characters that are for production and are going to be useful for a team and is something that is really part of the pipeline, you feel very rewarded because your work really has an effect on the final product. Yeah. But I have to go with idea process because that's where I get the more excited about, and that's the one thing that I love.
Yeah, that's cool. Last one. Picasso or Dali?
Wow.
Is that because I'm Spanish? Is this catered to me?
Yeah.
Trying to mess you up.
Go
with the immigrant.
No, I'll go with if I say Dali, I can't. Okay, I'm from Madrid.
He's getting all twisted.
And Dali is Catalan, so there's a whole thing.
Oh. So there's.
No, I'm joking. No, nobody cares.
No, they do care. They do so much.
I would go with Picasso. I think Picasso, not because of the character, because I think both of them are crazy and weird in their own way. But there was a process. I can relate more to Picasso through the process of simplification. I think there's something about simplifying and the economy of line and the economy of shape and the synthesis of what you see and organizing the visual equilibrium of a painting. That I think has more to do with the mindset that I have for this design. Than Dali. Dali is all this Barocco, crazy, breaking the mold thing, which is amazing and is very inspiring, but I cannot relate to it. I see it from an outsider. Whereas the Picasso process is more, I can relate to it more.
Cool. Well, that's all I have as far as this or that goes. So
I'll toss in a noir-related genre one.
Oh, cool.
Femme Fatale or The Rumpled Detective?
The Rumpled Detective.
Yes,
totally, man, totally. Because you like seeing a broken man and desperate and that's lost everything. It's something so appealing about that. There's something also so romantic about that. Like that's something that noir films do, is that they romanticize broken people.
Yeah, they do.
And there's something very poetic about it, and I do like that a lot.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Fuck yeah. Of course.
They're ready.
So that means Noel. She's kind of like Carlos. Yes.
Before you go there,
I'm very noir.
We got to make sure that we say this because we don't normally have a show on Sundays, but like just so you guys know. You guys are looking for things. SIGGRAPH is this week in Vancouver, or is it Montreal? I'll check. But it is this week. I think it's Vancouver. So check that out. Mike, I did send you a message about Meet Mike. So there's another for Unreal. The guy from FXPHD. Yep. The guy from FXPHD is doing live VR interviews with a bunch of industry greats in VR. So they everything. So check that out. fxguy.com/feature/meet Mike. If you want to check that out, we'll put that in the show notes. But I did want to say that SIGGRAPH is this week. That was a pretty big deal. We'll probably have more stuff to talk about on Thursday once it's all said and done. But yeah, check it out.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Amazing.
Excellent. So now that's the part of the show. Now we're at the part of the show where we will be looking at.
You're the inspiration. You bring feeling to my life.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Charlie, be ready this time. None of this card stuff.
Andrea Blythe is my buddy. He's the best.
Hey, I took a class with this guy.
Did you?
I met him.
Yeah.
I met him a couple of about a month and a half ago here in London. He did a workshop with Schoolism.
He's so good.
Oh,
Such
wow.
a nice guy.
Crazy.
Such a nice guy.
Yeah. I've been looking at his sculptures. And they're phenomenal. This guy is so.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the police are showing up. What's going on?
Yeah, man. What are you guys up to?
What'd you do?
Yeah, and I wanted to like show folks this because I've been toying around with the idea of making like different cartoon characters out of clay.
Yeah, you should.
And yeah, his work is I'm trying to find something that's not an announcement.
Wow.
Yeah,
House.
and these are some of my favorites right here.
Yeah, buddy, I knew it.
Yeah, classical.
Yeah, that movie is just so fantastic. So whenever I see things about it, and especially a sculpture, because we don't get to see clay sculptures all that much anymore. Everything is digital. But just seeing his the way he lays down clay is so cool.
That guy's still rough too.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
really big on. That was something I was learning from. He's really big on the kind of rough. Well, but he really approaches it like sketching. It's very rough, just kind of blocking in shapes. And he actually doesn't often finish his models.
But why would he? That's the
But
point, like,
exactly.
it's clear enough. It's so clear. It's
He
so
doesn't have it at all.
You
And
don't
in
have
some
to.
in some respects, if you look at the ones that are more finished, they've lost something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I think that's the same with drawing. I think when you overdo drawing, loses the magic. I think this guy is like a perfect example of that. And there's the amazing talent that this guy has is that it's so hard because he never models at T-pose, and I think that's something that 3D modelers sometimes they're obsessed with. Like, I have to model this in a thing. You have to give me a perfect like front profile, 3/4 back to make this perfect T-pose character, and he just gets a drawing.
Yeah.
And translates the gesture and the appeal of the character to
Yep.
the 3D. It's so
So good.
so incredible. It's so,
Yeah.
I think it's something that gets misunderstood, but the talent that it takes to translate appeal into 3D,
Yeah.
it's insane. So
Right.
good, this guy.
Yeah, and especially like if you're drawing, the pose is what sells the weight of the character or of the thing that you're drawing, and it's something as simple as just shifting the hips to the right or to the left gives it more of a story than if the character is just standing there.
Totally. And that's not just weight; it builds the character itself. Like that's a really common problem in like the studio art, viz dev art development phase. Is you'll do these like you're talking about, like T-pose drawings, and then the executives or folks who aren't super creative get so confused by it, and they're like, "But they seem so old and not fun." And it's like, well, yeah, because they're like stuck in this like, and it's so helpful to do these poses and gestural stuff.
So good.
Yeah. So I mean, look at that.
Look at that.
This guy.
That guy is so
Look at
good.
those hips.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not
And
only
he's,
that, he's like-
he's legit just standing
No, I
there,
know,
but
it's
he's
the
got
pants.
tons of.
But is that proportion that like balance, or like the small head, like nothing measures the same, right? Like the long legs with the sort of semi, like the hips, and then the torso is really narrow and the head is really long and the hat is just bigger at the head, and is that proportion it sells the appeal so much.
Yeah.
Right.
So good, this guy.
I think it's always important to even from a modeler standpoint to just pose your work, especially for your portfolio. Pose your work or model for the pose. I mean, because like obviously, if it's something that you're just trying to show off a skill set in terms of how well you can breathe life into your model, then technically you're not showing something for animation or something for like topology so that somebody can animate. I think you can have both of them. You can have one where it's superposed and super has super life and character, and you can have another one where you say, okay, cool, this is my like stereotypical nondescript, naked dude that's anatomically correct, that's got perfect typology. If you're trying to go for that and show that off, and that being something that's not interesting but it's more technical, can show off better than you trying to do something where like you have a cool character but you put it in a thing.
The cops finally made it from here over to you.
Yeah. Where you can have something where you have something, in a T pose is supposed to be technical but doesn't have any kind of life, go ahead and just pose it,
Yeah, totally right.
And there was something that there's someone that works with Jack that was looking at my portfolio and stuff, and one of the tips that she gave me was leave them wanting more. Don't give it all to them.
Right.
So having your portfolio, or not in your portfolio, but have in your back pocket all these T poses that you're doing, but take those characters and actually put them in the middle of a situation, and that's what's going to hook them. And then later, when people are like, "Oh, that's really cool. Do you happen to have that in a T pose?" Then you can pull that out. But you don't want to. You don't want to overdo. Well, if you give people literally everything that you make, that you draw, that you model, it'll be easy for them to pick something bad and give them
a reason. Yeah,
a reason not to hire you.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. But also, I think that if you're showing a post character, because anybody that can do a model and rig it and post it and model for the post, they know that you can do the technical stuff. They know that you can do the topology, you can do all the T-posts. That's a given. Because nobody that can do a beautifully posed character, they cannot get to that stage without doing all that first. So if you show that beautiful, you don't have to, like you're saying, fill the page with a bunch of information about everything you've done. It's soon. People in the industry know that if you can do an amazingly gesture pose with a nice lighting, and you can do all the other stuff. Whereas on the other side, if you fill your page with turntables, that just shows the technical part. That doesn't show taste. It doesn't show that gesture of the character.
Yeah. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to fake people into thinking that this thing is alive.
Yeah, it's totally.
So that's why you're trying. That's why
illusion.
Move things here and there, and that's the fun of exploring, drawing, and modeling and stuff like that. It's being able to push it a little more, and that's where you start to find your own style. Is taking your creativity and pushing it.
Yeah.
So take a look. We'll have his link in the show notes. Charlie, would you like to share someone?
Yes, I would. So this week I am going along the Madrid, Spain route, picking an artist that I like.
Hombre.
So Raymond Nunez is the artist.
Ramon Núñez. Yeah.
Nunez.
Núñez. That's a very hard letter to do. It's Núñez. It's a Núñez. Yeah.
And I love this guy's work. And we just talked about a whole stint about posing and like breathing life into characters, and I think he breathes life into his 2D characters that he makes, or ones he makes off of famous comic books or movies and stuff like that. So we have the homage to Incredibles, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
right. So, it's a speed paint. He has the process on there too.
Nice.
And then we also have. There's some other work here. He has a lot of.
You're gonna get us censored.
Sorry, it's all good. But like he does a lot of cool character expressions. He has a couple other ones. You're gonna recognize some of the other movies here. That's coming up. There's some other ones. I don't know if you guys seen some of these.
But one thing I think is really cool. This guy is he does very simple lighting.
Right.
but it sells so much of the character. Like
Look at that.
having
That's
just a sketch
amazing.
with like a flat color, it's But if you just add that rim light or you add that nice cast shadow, just put a little bit of care into selling that, like the Incredibles drawing. It was great.
Right.
Like that pink light coming through of the morning is already suggesting that he hasn't slept in the whole night and this is the morning and it's coming through. And it's it's just one layer probably in overlay or in hard light and just erasing and painting the right things. And that already sells, it adds so much to a sketch. And that's something I think is people should, the Game of Thrones ones are crazy good.
That's good.
That's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good caricature artist too.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the
That
tough
guy.
stuff.
The eyes on Reek are hilarious.
And he has some other, video gaming stuff, which is kind of cool. That was kind of nice. But the other one I really liked,
Amazing.
is weird. Like we talk about progression of like styles, so he has this like pretty much style to his stuff. I love this one because some of this stuff I feel like it's like framed from the movie. Like I remember the kind of like similar look, but it's all exaggerated more. It's like. So funny, where's the cello? I love it.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
But then you move down and it starts to change, the style.
Is that earlier stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think ArtStation is pretty much what you last posted. So if you move down in the ArtStation gallery,
it says 2 years.
yeah. So like, look at this. This stuff starts to get. You start to see the wide eyes and the crazy expressions. But keep looking here, like where it starts to get even more, different renderings. In this one here,
Even more realistic, right? Like
Yeah.
it almost feels like he
Look at
starts.
this.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a fantastic drawing.
All right. Look at all the ones now. Like if you look at the listing of all the different ones, look at this one.
Wow.
It's like strikingly different.
Well, but that I think it goes to say that he's not doing drawings for all the people. He's studying because that's all that's he's doing homework. All that is like he is studying black and white and values and shape, and technique, and all of that is just going to greater her talent. And I think a lot of people fall into this trap of like, oh, I'm just gonna make things that all people are gonna like. Man, that painting is insane.
Yeah.
This guy. He has process videos and stuff like that. If we go here, he has a bunch of stuff, so check him out. Raymond.
Nice.
Nunez. That's him. Yeah.
Cool.
Beautiful. Good
All
one.
right.
Yeah.
I will.
How about you, Jack?
Probably most folks have seen this guy, but if you haven't, get on it. And I think it's Denis or Denis Zilber, Denis Zilber. He's a really cool character and render artist.
I have not seen him.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his rendering style just really kills me. It's like so well done yet super stylized. And it's actually I've been following him for a while, so it's actually some of his earlier stuff that caught me. But it's been fun to watch him grow and kind of develop, especially since he has such a distinct style. Like if he's, I mean, this is all fairly recent, but it's kind of the same thing if you scroll back.
How he builds it up,
Yeah, you scroll back and see how he sort of has developed. But like, this is crazy. Like he's been, this one particularly, he was posting over the course of like 5-6 days, showing his daily progress, and just the amount of detail that he put in like the guy's jeans and like color passes and stuff. It's just
wow,
so well rendered and so well thought out. But and we were just talking about over finishing. Like this guy's got it figured out. Like it's super finished and super polished, but it's still incredibly appealing. And I think that it's because what we were talking about earlier. He still has this really strong sense of foundation and design. So even in its most finished phase, it's still really appealing. Yeah. There you go. That's something fun.
There's some risque ones. Yeah, that's the ones that I just came across.
Black and white stuff's cool too. Oh, that's cool.
So cool.
Lighting on that one.
This just design-wise is just so good. Like that,
Yeah.
I could see that moving on a feature film right now. Like it looks like a CG, like finished. You want it to be, right?
Right, for sure.
So yeah, so Denis Zilberg. We'll drop it in the show notes.
Nice, good one.
Wow, that's really good.
James, I know that we didn't give you a heads up, but is there anyone that you would like to bring some attention to?
Actually, I was thinking about that as you guys were showing this. There is this guy that doesn't get enough recognition outside of Spain, but he has some followers in France. His name is Enrique Fernandez.
Ooh.
I'll share with you. The only thing is that I don't have to put it on my iPad. I don't know how to send you this. Oh, you know what? I'll send you a quick email really quick.
Drop it in the
Link in the chat.
chat there.
Yeah, it's just that I have it on iPad, so I don't know. I cannot get the link.
Here, let me see. Is this him? Is that him?
Let me see. It's good. I can't see it. I can't see anything.
No.
No. It's he's I can just send you a little quick link.
Okay.
Right away.
That one is not.
That's him, I think.
There you go. Sent to let's get your own email. He's this guy that worked on the industry in Spain a lot in the animation industry and then moved into comics in France. Enrique Fernandez is his name. He did this a bunch of albums. I'll send you this other link as well. Yeah, that's the guy. That's him.
Oh, sweet.
And he has this amazing sense of design and texture. And if you go down into his comic books, he's got a massive gallery of making offs, and you can see some of his paintings and sketches, and it's ridiculously expressive and edgy and interesting and fresh, and the shapes are really dynamic. And he's so good. And I want him to be the most famous artist in the planet. And he's also like a really kind guy. I've met him a couple times, but it's just look, if you go down, and if you go down all the way to the
I have a couple of those books.
if you go a little bit further up, because there's this one book especially that I love. If you go up a couple more, the one that says Los Cuentos de la Cobra, the Cobra one, the couple kissing.
Oh, wow.
And you go to concept art style research.
Whoa, I like it. Ooh,
you'll see. It's going to be amazing. If you go all the way down to style research,
look at this.
he's good. Those ones, the one with those ones over there.
Oh, wow.
Oof, that sense of
That's
color,
crazy.
the sense of design, like those layouts and that color and texture, and it's so, to me, that's like that's the epitome of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like, I fucking love this kid, and he's super kind and
Yeah,
super
so
fresh
exciting.
and super hardworking, and I don't think he gets enough credit. And he lives like in right? Like, look at all that, like,
great.
beautiful,
That's amazing.
all
Such
this
good
gesture of
shapes.
the guys, the
Yeah.
shapes, the background. If you go through his website, he's got a lot of information on his projects, and look at that mask and the smoke. And I actually is the only guy that I've ever bought, and like that. This painting over here is an original painting of his. I wish I could take it out, but it's glued to the thing. But I just love this guy so much, and he's been a massive influence on my work and my taste and everything.
Yeah.
He's fucking great.
He is good.
And if you go into his Instagram, now he's very big into doing, like, look at that ship sinking, like the one that just passed. Like, and that's something that blows my mind. Like, you know, animation people like us, we do like one character drawing, and we're so happy and proud of it. And this guy is creating these scenes, this insane lighting and mood, and the character design is so strong.
Nice.
Everything.
This
Oh.
Wizard of Oz stuff he's done is.
I have the Wizard of Oz book. It's so good.
Oh my gosh!
Where's
Shit.
I had to custom special order it. I actually, when I was in school, I reached out to this guy because he had like a little couple of one-offs called Las Cabezones, and it was like this little comic of these big-headed characters. And I was so obsessed with it, but he only had like 5-6 drawings. And I actually messaged him. I was like, "When is this coming out as a book?" And he's like, "It was really more of just a scribble, you know."
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, if you go, if you go to his Instagram now, he's really big on traditional art. So he does
That's
mostly.
amazing.
Well, and like look at the storytelling of that, like that one. Like he does a lot of like
what is this?
wash painting, and
Ah,
he does these beautiful paintings all in
Oh, my
one.
goodness.
Oh, wow.
he's already
Yeah.
evolved past the website.
Yeah.
He's, and you can follow his work. You can see his process, and if you reach to him, you can buy like a full on like a what I have is like an A3 painting for like $200. I'm like, you are
Nice.
fucking crazy, man. That you could sell this for $1,000 and I would buy it either. Like he's amazing, and he should be seen by everybody. I think he's the best.
good.
He's the best of the best.
Yeah.
What I'm going to say is that I need to. I think we're over 3 hours now, 3 hours and a half.
Yeah.
I need to finish my day. It's already almost 10 p.m. here. But
Cool.
it was such a pleasure hanging out with you guys.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was
definitely.
so much fun.
That was we were coming to the end of the show. So if people want to find you and your work online, where can they find it?
I normally go by Murfish everywhere, like MURFISH everywhere, pretty much. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. I'm not in any other I'm not in Twitch or in YouTube or anything. So that's it. And then and follow Madrid Noir. That's the one thing that I'm sort of pushing
Yes.
more these days. Like we're doing we're going to festivals soon, and before the year ends, we'll publish setting 360 video. We'll have like VR experience. We have all the stuff. So
Cool.
stay tuned, and I'll keep sharing stuff, and I'll let you guys know. So if you want, you guys can check it out or want to see it when
definitely.
it's done.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's been
And let me just throw this out there. When it is done, if you want to get the whole team together, we can have a show and we can talk to everyone. And
That'd be
Whoa. Okay. Yeah. I'll get back to you on that. Yeah.
great. Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. That'd
Cool.
be so cool. Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time. It's been so much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And nice to meet you. Let's hang out when I'm in LA or
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
or whenever we meet.
or we can come
Or
and
we're in
visit
London.
you.
Oh, come to Europe. Let's do a
I
European
would love
tour.
to.
Love to.
Yeah, do a Sketch Zone European tour. That'll be great.
Cool.
Well, yeah.
All right, we can wrap up super fast. Hey, Charlie, real quick. What's your stuff?
You can find me on Instagram, CharlieBW3, my website, cargocollective.com/CharlieBWilliams. And
How about
the
you?
almighty Instagram. Was it
Pinterest.
Pinterest? CharlieBW3. Check it out.
And
How
I
about you,
am
Jack?
Sketchbookjack.com and SketchbookJack. Pretty much everywhere else.
And you can find me, coconutjustice.com, Coconut Justice everywhere else. Find us at sketch.zone.
That's a great name.
And if you're watching on Twitch, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. And we didn't announce another fun prompt, but this week we're doing what was it? I had it written down. A Puma window washer sinning. So we're going to be doing that. And if you share your drawing on Instagram, usually what we do is we'll show all of those in the beginning of the show. And then we're able to share your work. So it's a really good way to get some exposure. And you can also find us on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, and of course, iTunes. All right, guys. Everyone
Thanks so
here's got
much.
things to do, but thank you, James.
Thanks for
My
coming
pleasure,
out.
guys.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
It was awesome, man.
It was fun. Well, take care, guys. See you around.
Bye.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.